As you know, I hope by now, these sessions are meant for us to come up with ideas in relation to traffic, to hear your concerns, and to help us carve a way forward in dealing with the traffic. We've tried, where possible, to be location specific, i.e., we're in the north, so we try to keep our concerns around the issues pertaining to this part of the world. Of course, we take considerations for other parts as well, but we try to keep them local. I really want to thank all of you for coming out. And to begin, I would wish for the Permanent Secretary to be able to give us a kind of synopsis as to what we have seen so far, and then we will follow that with a presentation from Mr. Bowen that speaks to how we see the issue as well as the specific issues to this area, and then some possible solutions as we go forward. And at the end of that, then we'll have an engagement, hopefully one as fruitful as the others that we've had so far. So again, I want to thank you for coming out. I'm looking forward to having these conversations. We've been able to shape a lot of things so far from the input that we have received, and I want to encourage people to come out and to participate. So I will now hand over to the Permanent Secretary. Oh. With the driver of MB1083, the person has to move their vehicle. Oh, hate to ball you out like that, but yeah. Thank you. So I will now hand over to the Permanent Secretary to give us a summary of some of the things we've seen so far. PS.
Thank you, Minister. We have had some very rich feedback, both in terms of the 3 meetings that have been held so far. As you are aware, you can submit your comments, your feedback by WhatsApp or by email, and I will give you that WhatsApp number as well as the email address later on in the meeting. But we have had some significant feedback. I have more or less summarized them on the various categories of traffic management, infrastructural development, and urban planning, in terms of school transport, new modes of transport, public transportation, measures to reduce the number of vehicles on the road, safety and enforcement, and road quality and standards. So I will just give you a summary of the major points that have been made at the 3 meetings, as well as the feedback that we receive by WhatsApp, by telephone, as well as the email submission. So in terms of traffic management, we have had a number of suggestions for the improvement of the traffic on the road. It has been suggested that there should be the timing of traffic lights at several junctions need to be improved. Suggestions in terms of the painting of yellow box markings at roundabouts to prevent motorists entering the roundabouts and blocking traffic. Suggestion of implementing more median U-turns similar to the lollipop turn at Warren's. Installation of traffic lights at roundabouts, and even using the hard shoulder, as you would see on several highways, including the ABC highway, only for left-turning traffic. And it has all been suggested that there should be no right turns at peak periods into congested areas such as Wildy, 6 Rose, and Haggett Hall. And of course, there were also suggestions for the need wider junctions to accommodate left-turning traffic. In relation, there are suggestions in terms of dedicated lanes for persons who want to ride bicycles and pedestrian lanes, so that we, at the same time, will be promoting a healthier Barbados, as reflected in the Trailway project, which was started in St. George. Also, recommendations for dedicated one-way lanes, which should be implemented at peak periods. Now, in relation to infrastructural and urban planning, you're aware of the decision that has been made for the construction of flyovers on the ABC Highway to remove the gridlock at those junctions. We have had suggestions for the establishment of a grade separated light rail or monorail system over the ABC highway to be integrated with the overpasses. One person suggested that there is need for more proactive planning on the part of government in terms of a wider planning, a longer planning horizon, say 25 years for emerging town centers such as at 6 Roads. And we have had suggestions for the need for walkovers at critical points on the highways, as well as the conversion of 2-lane highways to 4 lanes where space is available. In relation to school transport, we all know that when schools are in session, that there is more congestion on the roads. So we have had recommendations for an exclusive school transport system for students. And one popular suggestion is for a park and ride hub for our school children who, so that you would not have a situation where you have many parents going to drop off their children at the various schools, especially where there's no provision for a bus nearby or space so that the parents can pull off the road and let out their children. New modes of transport, suggestions for the establishment of ferry service or water taxis from Oystons to Bridgetown and then on to Spikestown. In terms of public transportation, we have had recommendations for the provision of real-time tracking of buses so that commuters may know when the buses will arrive. Actually, the Transport Board is going to be launching an app where you'll be able to track the location of buses so you'll know when they will come at the bus stop that you're at. Another recommendation for the creation of a hub and spoke system where high-capacity buses will serve major arterial routes between hubs and smaller PSVs would operate as feeder services on the spokes. In relation to measures to reduce the number of vehicles on the road, we have had recommendations for the implementation of strategies to reduce the importation of vehicles, recognizing, as the Prime Minister indicated really, that having over 181 registered vehicles on the road is really unsustainable, and within next year or so, we may well be approaching 200 registered vehicles on the road. Of course, there are recommendations for the reintroduction of work-from-home policies and staggered work hours, and the provision of tax incentives for businesses who actually implement those measures. One popular recommendation was the establishment of park and ride sites, especially near shopping centers. Actually, there was one recommendation for the implementation of a toll system to enter Bridgetown and other shopping areas as was implemented in London. And one suggestion that stirred a lot of debate was the distribution of even and uneven numbers on license plates so that motorists will only be allowed to go on the roads on those days where they have that particular license plate, which could, as one person suggested, reduce traffic by 50% on the road. So that is something that you'll want to consider. In terms of safety and enforcement, it was suggested that one popular suggestion was for more rigid enforcement of the road traffic regulations to curb the behavior of PSV drivers. And of course, there were recommendations for more sidewalks, the installation of more street lights, and improved lighting at major junctions. In relation to road quality, the last one, road quality and standards, it was suggested, and it's something that we are actually implementing, the faster fixing of potholes, as well as what some persons call engineered potholes, where you pave the road and you do not raise the manholes speedily. So we're actually going to be implementing the program this financial year to raise those manholes, particularly along Highway 1. One other suggestion, that is something that the BNSA is looking at, is a modernized asphalt mix design that will lead to greater durability of the roads. And that is more or less a summary of the major points, the major recommendations that have been made at the 3 previous town hall meetings, as well as the feedback that we got online and through the WhatsApp number that we gave out. That's it for me, Chair. Thanks.
Right, so as you can tell, we've had a very wide and varied set of responses, suggestions, very, very good ideas coming from the public. I was just speaking to our scribe over here who told me that she has an equal amount of concerns as she has solutions, which is a very, very good thing. I'm very thankful to the public. Oh, there are more recommendations than there are concerns, which is brilliant, and which tells me that this consultation is making a lot of sense. So I will now hand over to Mr. Bowen, and thereafter we will engage in question and answers, comments, conversation, and so on. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to take you through some of the existing conditions that you face currently on the roads and a number of possible solutions that we are looking at as well. All right, on this slide, you can see there are a number of roads which we have a number of speeds indicated on them, well, average speeds. These are some of the main highways, 1 through 7, and these are the average speeds along these roads. You can see in some cases, some roads are at 5 kilometers per hour. This is an average speed across the full length of these roads. So you can tell persons are moving quite slowly, which is a serious indicator of significant congestion along these roads. On this slide, we have here, this is information that was obtained from Waze. Waze is a platform that was owned by Google now, and they basically provide information. They are a navigation software tool that you can use to navigate. And what it does is it can actually plot the shortest possible route for you, or fastest possible route for you that you can take to get to and from a destination. So it actually avoids congested streets and so forth. So it is a software. It is an app that I would suggest a lot more persons would use. It also helps us to we can gather certain data in terms of travel patterns and in terms of overall population and so forth. So it's something that I would encourage persons to utilize, all right? Well, what we are seeing here as some of the data that we would have had, you can see the areas, the red on the photo, on the image on the left. That is information that is showing the most congested roads in Barbados. You can see those would correspond to the ABC Highway, Ronamap Highway, which persons commonly refer to as Highway 2A, and the South Coast Road, and also the road along the West Coast as well, right? On this slide, we're looking at, this is another app which Google provides. It shows the typical traffic flows along the roads in the network, and essentially what you're seeing here on the left, you can see that the green, it represents areas which are with fast-moving traffic, and it goes up to a deep red color, which indicates areas that are where traffic is moving extremely slow. So this is essentially a heat map, essentially, and you can see at the junction with Seaview, that's shown here. You can see it's a lot of deep red, which shows in that general area there's lots of congestion, lots of delay. I came up that way this afternoon, and that corresponds perfectly. As soon as you get past that area, everything starts to clear out. So we know that is a definite area where there's significant congestion. And this is just some photos of the whole town and the entrance areas. Here, another junction where there's significant congestion, which you guys would face, those from the north would face, would be the Ronamap Highway, Porters/Westmoreland Junction. At that junction, you can see, particularly on the photo or image on the left, you can see the deep reds, especially on mornings. You can see deep red, which is at the top of the drawing, heading towards the junction. So if you're approaching from the north, that corresponds to the long congestion, the significant congestion that you would face in that area. So we know that that junction is a problem. It does have some capacity problems. We are reviewing the signal times that are there right now so as to see how best we can improve on the situation so as to improve the times that drivers and motorists would see. That's just another image there of the same junction we just spoke of. At this point, this is images of Spicestown. Actually, this is the Church Street, KNR Husbands Junction. You can see on the photo to the left, you can see deep red, which is occurring coming from the Roundy Town section. And in fact, both images, morning and evening, that Roundy Town approach has significant congestion, or that is shown on both of them. Also, on the mornings, you can also tell that there is significant congestion heading towards the town in that area. So that's another area where there is some concern that we have to look at the junction and rephase and retime the signals. All right, moving to some solutions. Essentially, there are three broad approaches. One, we can have capacity expansion, we can have traffic flow optimization and demand management. In terms of the capacity expansion, in terms of we can look at widening of roads. Now, for that, the Ronmat Highway is one such road that we are actively looking to improve the capacity along that road. That is the road which runs from Warrens right up to mile and a quarter. We are looking at improving that because there are capacity problems along there. There's significant delay. I remember there was a time where persons would complain about when there are cane trucks on the road, there is no opportunity for you to overtake. All these things have been factored into our review in terms of improving the capacity by adding extra lanes to this location. We also want to look at in terms of traffic flow optimization. We want to look at the improvements to the traffic signalized junctions across the country. All of them have to be rephased and retimed so as to help improve the traffic flows. We are actually looking at new technology where we can, using artificial intelligence technology, instead of the loop detectors that we would normally put in the ground, this new technology, it actually monitors via cameras, it monitors traffic flows, and then it recalibrates the signal times through every cycle relative to the amount of traffic going through the junctions. So it's actually far more advanced and will keep things as efficient as possible. In terms of demand management, well, this is an area where we are looking at. You can have things like pricing and vehicle restrictions. We are actually looking at a one-way system that we may be looking at implementing for our St. Michael area. And with that, we could dedicate one of those lanes to public transport or have a shared use lane with public transport and also a cycle lane as well, so that we could. Currently, the existing situation is a very car-centric society. Everybody wants to use a car. You travel anywhere overseas, you have multiple options. You're not only exposed to using cars. You can get on a bus, you can get trains. So by implementing some bus-only lanes, we'll be improving the other modes, making it more available, making it more attractive, giving you an incentive to use the public transport. Obviously, we would need to improve and increase the amount of buses as well, but that is something that we are also looking at. This slide here shows the possible route and in terms of improvement relative to the Ronald Map Highway to 4 lanes. This is just, And here we can look at in terms of solutions, the public transit system transformation. Essentially, we're looking at the establishment of a mass transit authority. What that will do will be to bring all of the existing transport bodies the Transport Board, the Transport Authority. All the PSVs, they fall under the Transport Authority. And what we will do is to bring them together and then have them all placed on a schedule. Currently, the PSVs run to their own schedule. But we need now to improve the overall situation, is to bring them on to a schedule where persons can have a greater reliability in the system. They will have a better understanding and knowledge in terms of knowing, okay, this is the time that a bus is supposed to come, so I can plan now my journeys. We also want to develop or provide an app where you can look at to see where the public transport bus is relative for the journey that you want to take, so you can plan your journeys. We also want to go to things like cashless, so that you don't have to walk with cash, that you can easily come and pay via the app and go without cash, all right? Right. Also, we want to look at the road network improvements and optimization that we've spoken about in the traffic signals, and improving those signal times, some road widening in some cases. Those are things we'll be looking at. We also want to look at smart parking management in the Speightstown area. There's significant parking issues. Persons park. There is a rather unused car park that is to the next to Chafet, and then lots of persons still park on roads in the area, and we would want to encourage persons to use the parking facility that is there, because by doing that, they will help free up flow along the road, allow for obviously the delivery vehicles to come and make deliveries, especially if they use one side of the road. So the parking situation we are actually reviewing, and we are going to work on that to better improve that going forward. And as I mentioned, in terms of if we use a one-way system in the St. Michael area and then convert one of the lanes to a shared lane, we could then implement, it could be a shared lane with either mass transit and also a cycle lane, all this to improve the overall options that everyone would have currently. So these are things that we are looking at to help improve and also create a more sustainable transport future. The car-centric society that we have right now is not very sustainable. Whatever improvements we would normally make generally ends up in more cars coming. We are 181,000 vehicles on the roads, so it's going to continue to grow if we don't start to encourage persons to use other modes. All right, and at this point, I will return to the Master of Ceremonies to continue on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason. Good night, everyone. I'm Antoine Williams, and tonight I'll be the MC, Master of Ceremonies, moderator for tonight's session. Minister was kind in introducing the head table, but I would want to introduce Richard Austin. Richard Austin, he arrived during Jason's presentation. Richard is the Deputy Chief Technical Officer, Operations. So tonight we are having a conversation. We want to hear your feedback. It's about offering solutions. Permanent Secretary would have given you a summation of the previous sessions in which we've had some bold, innovative solutions and offerings, and tonight I'm sure will be no exception. So we have 9 respondents thus far, and I will, of course, we will welcome more if that is the case, but we would recognize those 9. Now, those of you who will be approaching the offering your solutions, you can just have to go to the mic, state your name, and then you can start. It is important to know that we want to be mindful of time and try to be as concise and brief as possible within perhaps a 3 to 4 minute time frame. For the online audience, we of course welcome you. You too can offer your comments and your solutions, and you can do so by emailing information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb. And those of you who are in the audience and who may not want to to offer your solutions or feedback at this time, you too can make note of the email address or the WhatsApp number 266-3780. 266-3780. It's time to hear from you. Number one. If you're holding number one, then you can make your presentation. State your name and just go forward.
Is this a little too high for me? Maybe? Can you hear me? Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present here. I live in the north. My name is Norma Hinkson. I'm from Brevator, St. Peter. I live that way and I work in the south, which is airport. So it's a long trek every day. So I'll concentrate on two things. In my neighborhood, which is the Brevator neighborhood, we just had some work done. It's not completed, where there's supposed to be some milling and paving. It hasn't yet started though. But my concern here really is that the alternate route that is being suggested when the work does start is in such a deplorable state that nobody wants to travel that way. That is through the Sailor Gully to rejoin the highway at the Wim Junction. And I think that in terms of management, we need to ensure that the alternate routes are really suitable for vehicles to go through as an alternate whilst the major work is being done in the particular neighborhood. That's number one. The second thing is the congestion that all of us from the north experience on a daily basis on the Ronald Map Highway 2A. It can be so different at the same time any given day. The traffic lights at the Westmoreland Junction had been timed some time ago. It seems as if something might have gone askew, I'm not sure. But the timing seems to be very, very different for traffic to get through those lights. You can be caught by the, let's say, the infra junction in what I call the creep for a very, 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 very long time. And this is even before the road work started by the St. Thomas Church roundabout. That has exacerbated the entire thing altogether. If you try what I call a getaway at the Westmoreland lights and go downhill, Greenwich, or you're brave enough and you go further on up to the other one, the other roundabout by Lancaster, and you try it down Greenwich, you can be caught in the middle of the hill going down to Highway 1, creep, until you're able to get back up. Where the construction actually starts now, the road construction at by the St. Thomas Church roundabout, as I said, that has exacerbated matters because it's a very, very, very slow crawl all the way up and all the way down. My understanding is that it is going to go up to the Bagatelle depot. I think that's what my understanding is. That's where it's going to end. I don't know when that is going to happen. But the key word here, as the minister said up front, is traffic management. And I think that's really the focus of what needs to happen so that we have, a much freer flow as we move through on a daily basis because we have no choice but to get through on a daily basis. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure there are other persons who want to make their contribution. But I hope that that this is a fruitful exercise and that we can see some recommendations here and that some solutions will actually be put in place. Thank you very much.
Hi, good night. Richard Austin, Deputy Chief Technical Officer in charge of operations. With regard to your comment about the diversionary route from Brevator through Sailor Gully.
Susan, could you raise the volume, please, on his... Or Richard, you may need to speak louder.
Good night. Can you hear me a little bit better? Yes. We'll take a look at the diversionary route to see if there's any way that it can be improved to make life easier while we're doing work at Mount Brevator.
Just going through my phone and my notes, your MP had sent me that exact same concern But before he'd asked me about the works to start in Brevetor, and he was happy that the work had started, and then the exact same concern, which is that the alternate route was terrible. But I have a view that for all of those alternate routes, to be truthful, we should just go before we block off the roads and make sure that those roads are passable for people. So it's not only there, it's a lot of places. We do these diversionary routes, and they have potholes, and they're rough, and they're just some things. I think people understand that we're fixing the road, and they give us a little grace, but we have to be able to make sure that the alternate routes are a little bit more comfortable for the ride and for the car. So the point is taken, and the deputy CTO said he would look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And just to your
Sorry.
point with the signals at the Ronald Map Highway, we actually have some new times and for that location. The only thing is, as you quite clearly outlined, the difficulty with the roadworks that's going on there. If I change them now, it will probably still be congested anyway. So just trying to wait for the next window to put them in place, all right?
Okay. Thanks for your comments and feedback.
Thank you. Number 2.
Good night again. I actually spoke at the first one, and I came hopefully to get an answer to the question that I asked at the first one, which there was no answer to, because I was somewhat surprised that MTW seemed not to be able to say what the maximum weight loading is on the roads, given that MTW design specs the roads. I'd asked the question, and I think it was referred to the licensing authority, but they weren't here at that meeting. Because it doesn't, I mean, road conditions affect the traffic flow. And if you're fixing roads to a certain standard and people are using vehicles that are breaking up the road, I think, they're like spinning top in mud. And there are vehicles that seem to exceed any sensible weight loading. You see a single axle truck carrying a big excavator. Not so much from the big construction companies, but some of the small ones. And you see massive trucks on the roads now. And I'm just wondering, how do we control that? How do we keep the roads that we repair in good condition if we don't have a specification for the vehicles? So was there an answer to who controls that? All right, I mean, I reclaim my time, as I say.
Hi, good night. With regard to the question you asked about the loadings on the roads. Now, loadings more affect the bridges than the roads. And the vehicles that would be pertinent to that conversation are mainly the trucks, the heavy trucks that pass. Right now, we are currently going through a process of reassessing our bridges on our highways. We will be able to give a comprehensive answer with regard to their load capacity once that process is finished. The last bridge survey that was done in 1985, and we're currently in the process of updating that study.
I bow to the experts, but I mean, we're all aware of the junctions, bottom of Holders Hill, where you see the road just move. There's one up by Coal Ridge where those trucks come out of that quarry or whatever. And it destroys, I think the weights do. But anyway, I bow to the experts. Right.
Okay, so if you're talking about the collector points, where quarries are going in and out on Ronald Map or Coal Ridge, for example, there are things that we will be doing when we do improve Coal Ridge, which should be shortly. We are indeed looking to improve the strength of that area so that the turning movements of the trucks will not so affect the asphalt surface.
Okay. I see buses on the link road behind Holders Hill and heavy trucks now on that little road, on the link road.
Right.
Okay.
And just to add, sorry, and in some instances, what we will do is we will use roller compacted concrete to harden the areas, to give you improved durability for those areas.
Okay. just a comment. I know that I keep hearing that we have too many cars, 180,000 in our 144 square miles. And sometimes I wonder if we kind of give ourselves problems or say we have problems. Taiwan is 244, double our square mileage with 800,000 vehicles. London is Greater London is 4 times our square area with 3 million vehicles. But they're managed. I don't think it's an issue of too many cars. We have choke points, which we create. And I'll just give one example, Warrens. I grew up knowing Warrens from going to school when there was nothing in Warrens. There was British American factory, BIM factory, and tractors and equipment. We have a highway to way, which is a transit road. And somebody raised it, I think it was the last one that I watched. We then allow people to come and congregate around the through road. We put a mall on either side. We build more and more on each side of a through road and bring people there. To me, and those are things that we seem not to be able to plan for. Warrens, to me, seemed ideal for a park and ride system. And not to mention the government offices, where we bring all these government employees into Warrens and have them all driving in, rather than having a parking area with a shuttle bus that runs every 5 minutes during peak, just circles. And it just seems to me that we keep just doing things that create problems for ourselves. And I'm not going to, as I spoke already, my last thing which I spoke to, I think, Ms. Holder about, is the ZRs, because they are anonymous. I do not know of any country that has its citizens traveling in anonymous vehicles. The drivers on the road do not know. Every vehicle should be marked prominently on the outside with a business name. I don't want to know who owns it, but I want to know ABC Transport vehicle operates properly and XYZ does not. You cannot identify those vehicles from a distance. You see 2 vehicles parked opposite each other having a conversation. The drivers can't identify it because you can't see the number. You just see a big yellow vehicle. Those vehicles should be prominently identified on all 3 sides or all 4 sides. You can read ABC Transport, and you have a contact. They should be mandated to have a contact number that has to be manned, where people can call them and call the transport authority to say ABC vehicle number 6 was doing this. Right now, I don't think any driver can really report any of those vehicles unless you can get close enough to see the registration number, which means you either have to be right behind it or right in front of it. Why are those vehicles allowed to operate anonymously? It boggles the mind. And my final point is, there are lots of roads, Highway 1, Highway and the road in Christchurch, where those roads are built up on either side. We can't have bike lanes or bus lanes. We can hardly get sidewalks on those roads. The established roads, Highway 1, Highway 7, going up Worthing, wherever. Why do we allow people to park on those roads during peak hours? Delivery trucks should not be allowed to deliver on road. Cement trucks should not be allowed to deliver on road during a peak hour in the morning and a peak hour in the afternoon. Town planning should not allow people on Highway 1 to build condos and put electric gates on them, which means that they stop waiting for the electric. If you have one electric gate, your driveway should be long enough where the vehicle can turn off the road. All of those things restrict traffic. And with the best will in the world, I can't see how we're going to get bike lanes or, bus lanes on those roads. So there's small things that I'm suggesting during peak hours, because if I open Waze, I've been using Waze for 3 years to drive around things, so I see it. And I know that our roads are not congested. There are probably 10% of the roads that are congested at certain times. Outside of those times, it's fine. So I'm just, looking at simple things and making a suggestion that we look at simple things.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Can you just share your name?
Sorry, Glenn Husbands.
Glenn Husbands.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to remind you, when I presented, I would have said, in terms of the bus lanes and bike lanes, I would have said we were looking at making some of the roads in Bridgetown in the St. Michael area one way. There are 2 lanes, and one of those lanes could be reserved for a bus lane or shared lane with buses and bikes. So I'm just saying that it is possible in some areas, and it's not possible everywhere, but it is possible in some locations. All right.
But the restriction on deliveries is possible everywhere.
And that is point.
During
That point is
peak
noted.
hours.
That point is noted. No,
Yeah.
there's no nothing there. Right?
All right, thank you.
And just to support your point, Mr. Husbands, just today around 3 o'clock, I was driving along Highway 1, and there was a traffic jam leading back to the university, the roundabout at the bottom of University Hill. And when I got further along Highway 1, I discovered that there was a truck, a septic truck, was working, and it was halfway in the road, and then there were cones effectively making that road a one-way road. And things like that, I said immediately, things like this should not be allowed at peak time, because this was round 3, 4. So I take your point that there are certain things that are easy for us to do that would not cost us a lot, that we can do to help to alleviate some of the congestion. As it relates to the roads, we'll not get into the technical aspect of it, but I can assure you that we in the ministry we are looking seriously at building in more resilience into our road, and not just resilience against climate events, but resilience against increased vehicular loading. And that's one of the challenges that we've faced recently on our roads. And what we have endeavored to do is engage with BNSI to create designs that are more resilient to the weight. And I think that will go a long way in perhaps solving some of the problems that we have seen on our roadways. What we have seen over time in the roundabouts, especially, I know it happens at Warren's roundabout, where you see evidence of shoving or rutting in the roundabout, where you see those waves. And you've noticed that here, and where you mentioned as well, but it was also at the roundabout when you leave Shell gas station going towards Prayer Park in that area. And you would notice that we replaced the asphalt in that roundabout with a more resilient roller compacted concrete, which we believe would be more suited for a roundabout, because that had the same problem, where you saw the waves around the roundabout that were, where they got wet and oily, were kind of could be dangerous at times. But so that's how we are looking to approach that and remedy that situation around certain areas as well. So these are things that are being discussed in the ministry. We're just working towards them.
Thank you, Dr. Springer. Number 3, and just before you offer your presentation, allow me to also recognize the Operations Manager of Transport Board. She's just joined us, Gina Boyce. Number 3.
Ministers Humphrey and Springer, members of the head table, thank you for allowing me the time to offer my comments. Good night to everyone under the sound of my voice. I'm here for 2 reasons, really. The first is why everyone else is here, because we have concerns about the traffic situation. And the second is because I am actually hopeful. I'm hopeful because of the 2 ministers that sit before us. Because Minister Humphrey, as we all know, you've been doing a good job thus far, and we're hopeful that you and your team are able to wrestle these bugbears to the ground, you and Minister Springer. So I stand here with hope. That's what has brought me out tonight. You have mentioned a lot of the things that I would have spoken about tonight in your presentation. There's no need, I think, for me to reiterate them. However, I would say the point on which I digress would probably be on the flyovers. And my reason for that would be not because I am intrinsically opposed to flyovers, but because I am a scientist. So for me, if you're running a study, then in order to get accurate results, you need to be careful with the information that you put in from the beginning. So I am assuming that we have run feasibility studies in terms of coming to the conclusion that we need flyovers. So for me, what we are calling a traffic management issue in many cases may not necessarily only be that. It may be a systems issue. It may be the things that we are not doing, many of which I think were alluded to tonight on the presentation. Y'all alluded to a lot of things that we're now going to start to do. I think a lot of those are going to make a difference to our traffic situation. One case in point, for example, would just be staggering of work hours and school hours. As we all know, when children are out of school, the traffic situation is very, very different. Anybody on the road during vacation, I'm always happy during vacation time. Life is always so much easier on the road. That makes a huge difference. So I make that point to say that if we ran the study maybe in a year and a half's time after we had done all these things, we may get a slightly different result on the flyover. But that is one thing. So that is one aspect of it. And the second aspect of it is that in the things that we fail to do. So for example, we say that the PSV should pull over in the lay-by so that others can pass. They do not do it, but we don't enforce it. We have cars on the road that are not registered, they're not licensed, their insurance are not paid, contributing to the 181,000 cars, I guess, that are on the road. So we also have an enforcement issue. So for me, I would wrestle those issues to the ground before I started with the flyovers. I am not an engineer, but I would imagine the flyovers are going to be expensive. I don't know the cost. I'm opening to hearing some figures. I don't know the cost. But I do know they will be costly, they will take time, and they will have an impact on the community. Those are my issues as it relates to that. In terms of this community, I am definitely in favor, please, of some road lights on the roads at night. I traveled between 1.25 miles and the lights at Royal Westmoreland last night. There were 6 lights. 4 at 1.25 miles and 2 at Baker's. There were no other lights on that stretch of the highway. So I am pleading for some lights, please, along Highway 2A. And I'm also pleading for some cat eyes, I believe we call them, in the road. We had some of those between 1.25 miles and Baker's, and then none from Baker's to the same lights at 1.25 miles. I didn't go any further last night, so I can't speak to much further on, but I don't think there are many lights past there either. So those are the issues that I would bring to the table tonight. I would like to add to, I think the lady who spoke first, Mrs. Hinkson, she spoke to the accessory roads. There is a road that I travel daily, Worley Road, which was brought into use when the bridge, which is called Farm Bridge, that runs between Haymans and going down to Farm Road, when that bridge broke down 3 years ago, February of 2023. I believe between 9 months to a year ago, we were told that Barbados Water Authority was waiting for a pipe. I believe we are still waiting for a pipe. It is now April of 2026. Right? So 3 years later, a year ago, we were waiting on a pipe. I'm speechless, but I say all that to say, I would like to know, one, if the road is going to be reopened. That would be a question. Is it a legitimate expectation that that road is going to be reopened 3 years later, as the bridge has been closed for 3 years? Or are we spinning top in mud? That is one. And 2, to Ms. Hinkson's point, we were diverted to Worley's Road, which when we started was not a bad road, but it was not a road built for the kind of traffic that is seeing. And so it has had many, many, many potholes, and it has been repatched many times, but it continues to break down because it was not built for the volume of cars or trucks. I think a bus passed me 2 evenings ago going through there. That's not what that road was built for. And I don't think that when we were diverted to that road 3 years ago, that the expectation was that we would be traveling on it 3 years later. So those would be my comments for tonight. Thank you for hearing
Thank you
me.
very much. Jason, would you like to offer a response?
Yeah, relative to the flyovers, I just want to say it is not It is not our only option that we are looking at. There's a full gamut of solutions. In fact, we are taking all the comments that are the solutions that we're getting from here and the other consultations, and we're going to take all of them, and we're going to help to develop a full plan to help to inform a full plan of action to reduce the congestion. Right? The flavors are going to have a separate consultation as well. We were not going to address it in totality here, but we're going to have a separate consultation where all of your views and questions can then be answered in that forum, right? The other question you had in terms of the CATAs, yes, we do agree the CATAs are of tremendous help and assistance, and we are currently placing CATAs across the country as we speak. And we're going to get back to we did start on the Round Highway, and we're going to get back to that in short order, all right?
Okay, all right.
Hi, good night.
You need to, yes. Are we finished, Jason?
No, just one comment with regard
Richard, go ahead, Richard.
With regard to Haymans, the designs for Haymans were completed, and the designs for Haymans have been completed, and the procurement process was also completed. So there has been an award to a contractor to implement the solution to repair the bridge. So shortly, you should be seeing some work going on there.
All right, Doug.
Yes, the contract has been awarded for the construction of the solution. So you should be seeing some work going on there relatively soon.
All right, number 4, you number 4?
Yes, please.
Yes, may I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, to make your presentation as brief as possible. All right?
Hi, good
Go
night,
ahead, please.
ministers, head table, everyone who's here tonight. I'm just going to try to snap it up as quickly as
Just
possible.
state your name.
Crystal Thomas. Okay, so as we look at timelines and the current work that is being done on the roads, we have to keep in mind hurricane season is soon going to start. So how much of this work will be completed before hurricane season, and will it be quality work? Because we don't just want to rush and do the roads and then have to redo them. So we have to focus on the timelines and make sure that those are sustained. Outside of that, I do believe some additional persons could be added to the talks, because we're going to be focusing definitely MTW, Barbados Water Authority. If we're looking at introducing water taxis and ferries, then I'm thinking you're looking into the Coast Guard and how they are going to be policing the waterworks or the water taxis. Obviously, Barbados Workers Union, because once you're going to get into staggering work hours, working from home, you're looking at contracts of employees, and therefore employers will have some queries and some questions in relation to that. If we're going to look at some of the suggestions that were proposed in previous meetings, tunnels, that was one. I really do not think we should focus on tunneling here in Barbados with the caves that we have, and some caves we do not know exactly where they are. If we're looking at flyovers, well, some members have already spoken to that and the head table. We need to focus again on the quality work, because if we have challenges maintaining our current roads, just the roads, how are we going to maintain the flyovers? Because we don't want to fly off the flyovers. And we also don't want to have flooding when the rainy season is in, and then that is turning into fountains on the flyovers. There was work completed by the St. Thomas Church. And I must say that pooling of water used to settle there. And even though we have already paved that area, there's still pooling of water. So we have to look at drainage and take that into consideration as we are actually doing the work, and not go back to dig over the work that was already completed. It's going to make the process tedious. If we are looking at working from home, I do believe that we should stagger that and not necessarily make everyone start to work from home, because we're going to have a situation in certain areas like Bridgetown where
many businesses are going to have to close if you're going to focus directly on pushing into working from home. Yes, it's going to be convenient at this point in time. It might help some businesses, but not all businesses. But do remember that many places lease or rent buildings, so therefore it's going to impact the real estate sector. So you might have to have some type of consideration for that and conversations with those members. And we also don't want Bridgetown to just be ghost town. Because look at Spikestone right now. Many businesses have closed from Spikestone. So you might want to branch out in terms of putting some of your head offices, head ministries, businesses, stagger them over the island. Again, return some to Spikestone. I don't believe everybody should have to come into town or to Warrens just to conduct business. I don't believe everybody should have to go to the Pine to get their license cards. So we have to look at maintenance also if we're going to set up businesses, look at the maintenance of what we are doing in the particular areas, because right now, the card machine in Whole Town is not working, and everybody has to go to the Pine. Outside of that, we can also look at the park and ride system. When we are focused on the park and ride system, I don't want it to be a situation where we have to double pay. When I say double pay, so like me, I'm sure many persons have loans and they purchase their vehicles. And so therefore you expect to drive said vehicle to go wherever it is that you wish to go. Now, if you have to go and park and then pay to ride somewhere else, it's double paying. So I don't know if there's a situation where we can look at using our license once it is valid, that you can then ride free. And those persons who do not have a vehicle can pay a particular fee. I do not know what that fee will be, but they can pay a particular fee then to use the park and ride system, as well as the ferry system or taxi system, that, if that is considered. Again, when we come down to the ferry and the water taxis, I do not know what the cost is, so I would like you all to focus on that before we make that decision set in stone. And then how many water taxis or ferries we will require, and will we be staggering it so they're actually moving at the peak times. So would it be a case that we're looking at anywhere between 7 and 9 in the morning, again then at probably 11 to 1 in the afternoon, and then 3 to 5 in the evening that persons can use it? Will it be a situation where the water taxis or the ferries specifically are only for passengers, or would it be a situation where you can drive onto and you can be taken to town or taken to Whole Town? If it's just passengers, will it also be a situation where children will be riding free? Because I don't think we want to take all of the issues that we have currently on the road now onto the water and making a bigger situation or making a worse situation. So I think we need to consider those if we're going to look at ferrying. We will also have to then consider speaking with the fishermen and the water sports activity guys, because I'm not certain how far out the ferries or water taxis will have to be. So therefore you're infringing on persons' livelihood, so you might need to take that into consideration as well. Again, who is going to be doing
Is this your final comment?
Yes, please, on
Okay.
ferries, yes. So who's going to be doing the maintenance work, the vendors, where you're going to source the parts? Are we going to be training persons here to fix the ferries or water taxis? I think we need to look broadly at it before we actually say for sure that that's something that we are going to put in place. Because again, Highway 1, we don't have that many options that we can use to fix the issue that we have currently with the traffic. It is literally Highway 1 or Highway 2A, and that's it. Even if we have the link roads in between there, you're still going to be filtered either up to Highway 2A or down to Highway 1A. And we do know with the Royalton, the works that they were doing there, they filtered all the traffic that Monday morning up to Highway 2A. That went up trains to Lancaster. Therefore, anybody on Highway 2A that had not reached Lancaster could not move. And we were stuck in that traffic for hours on top of hours. So just focus on the timing, the budgeting, costing, and continuity. Yes?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are no responses from the head table, we move on.
Yes, there's a. Good night. I am Trika McCarthy Brooms, the Acting Chief Licensing Officer, and I'm very pleased to state that the licensing authority is going to be in short order, allowing citizens to have an additional option of having a digital driving license. Now, a digital driving license, this will be the first in the English-speaking Caribbean, that Barbados will be the first actually in the English-speaking Caribbean to actually have a digital driver's license. So the challenges that we're having with the card machine systems down or whatever the case may be will be a thing in the past in short order. You will not have to come into the Pine just to get your driver's license card. You will have an option of getting a digital driving license. You also have an option, to pay on WhatsApp. Take up your phone, and you can renew your driver's license on WhatsApp for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or even 10 years. And for citizens 75 and over, they will have an option to pay for the 2 years one time. So we are modernizing, and we are actually allowing citizens to have more options to be able to do more.
All right, thank you very much. Just hold on, Ian.
Sorry, Ian, I'm coming to you now. So you made a lot of very good points, I must say, and I don't want you to think that we are going to disregard them. I actually had 3 pages while you were talking of very good points. But in relation to the water taxis, more specifically, I used to be a Minister of Maritime Affairs and Blue Economy, and we would have done extensive work on what was possible and what was feasible and what could work and what could not work, because our intention was always to move people, if possible, people, not vehicles, along the coast area. With conversations were had at the time, we'd need to have more conversations with the fisher folk, the persons who were in that industry, the hoteliers who also operate on that side of the island. So we actually had a number of different conversations to be able to move people. Your suggestion about the details of it, we didn't go that far. We definitely didn't have the conversation about people with cars going for free and people who don't have cars paying, because needless to say, that would be interesting. It's an interesting suggestion, though perhaps controversial, but we did have conversations around what would be the method for paying, what would be the cost-benefit analysis, and so on. So it's something we gave a lot of attention to. You might also be surprised that there are many people on the island who have the capacity now to be able to repair, because primarily these are barges. So people who have the capacity to be able to repair a lot of the vessels, many people who are very highly skilled. And then there was a course at the time offered by the Polytechnic, no longer called the Polytechnic, but that was training people in fairly advanced boat repair and so on. So we weren't so much concerned about that component of it. I take the point about working from home. I think that was a good point and the impact that it could have on the real estate sector. And I also take the point about driving business. I think the government has to play the role, recognizing that traffic management is a lot bigger than just managing cars. If we take all the businesses out of town, then you're not going to get the necessary life and activity in town. If you take it out of Spice Town, you're going to have the same problem. So I do agree that perhaps the government has to lead the way in bringing back businesses to some of these areas to be able to stimulate economic activity. And then there are many other points, but we can't get into all of them now, but I take the point. I also take the point about drainage. I think that's a very important point. We've built a lot of roads and without the adequate drainage. And I think going forward, we have to make sure that we have the adequate drainage to accommodate or to make sense of the new road works as well. We've seen that, especially with the mill and pave jobs, that didn't have the larger infrastructural works as well. So very good points, and hopefully we can bring some of them to fruition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, you spoke on digitally turning our license into digital access. We'll be focusing on cybersecurity as well and boosting our cybersecurity to ensure that we don't have any fraud in relation to that.
Yes, 100%. That is number one for us.
Yes.
Cybersecurity, data management. That is for sure our priority.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. No, at the outset, I told you that there were 9 respondents, and we're now down to 18. And that is why it's so important that we encourage you to be as brief as possible. All right, Ian? I noted that you have 3 foolscap sheets.
But hold on. First of all, you mentioned my name, Ian Griffith. But I want you to know that you came late, so you have to give us some leeway because of your lateness. Mr. Minister Humphrey, Minister Springer, I'm glad to see you in the north. I just want to present a document.
Just so you know, though, Ian, I actually reside. Dr. Burt here is my neighbor. So we actually live in the same area. I actually reside in the north. I actually have to deal with this traffic just as much as you, but I'm happy that you welcome me home.
I know that you do have to.
I'm happy that you welcome me home, though.
Correct. Now, as Antoine said, I will try to be as brief as possible. But one thing that I have recognized over the last couple of weeks in listening to many of the feedback is that we have to recognize that there's one big problem for this congestion. That is management and coordination. Now, we have over 66% of our commuters who rely on private cars. And we have to be realistic. Our public transport exists, but it's not reliable. Law enforcement, so I'm glad to see that law enforcement is here. And law enforcement has already stated about the disorderly behavior of the public service and the illegal stopping, et cetera, for those public service vehicles. So again, this is not just an infrastructure issue, it is a management and the behavior. Now the behavior part not only comes from the behavior of persons on the road or using the roads, but the behavior of some of the person in management. And this is, I go again with persons who deal with the road issues in terms of some of the roads that we have experienced there in Half Moon Fort only today with the Barbados Water Authority. So you have persons in management who do not coordinate properly the road works, which causes major congestions. So this is some of the things that we have to recognize that we have to fix in Barbados. Some of the behavior, not just by the public, but the behavior of those persons in the Ministry of Transport and Works, and those supervisors and those workers. It has to trickle down. Our behavior has to change in all departments for this thing to be successful. Now, the government is planning to have flyovers. I've heard a lot of you saying that flyovers, Mr. Boyne has said that flyovers is not just the final issue, but really in true fact, we have heard that flyovers are going to start in 18 months. But let us ask the question, if we have already seen that we have had many evidence of poor traffic coordination, weak enforcement, inefficient use of existing roads. Some of those roads, I heard you mention about the roads there going up to Sailor Gully. And this is a part of the poor coordination. Last year, at the Salvation Army, when the Barbados Water Authority was about to do the roads in Checker Hall, I asked the question, what are we going to do when you get to Half Moon Fort and Sherman's? Because it is a smaller, compact area. That was last year. Now we are facing a situation this week. They want to close off the entire Half Moon Fort for an entire week. Cannot happen. I already had 2 clients who could not get to my business place because, one, nobody was there to man the area at the 2 junctions to explain to them where can they go. You cannot have a sign saying local access only and nobody is there to tell you how far you can go with the local access. And we have people unemployed that can actually, I can get a few people to work in those areas to tell you, well, look, you can go as far as X place or not. I asked the question again, why it is that we cannot have such work done in sections. You block off a section. Again, I take, for example, Half Moon Fort. There's a road that we've been asking for quite a long time in Clinkits that can link Clinkits to Half Moon Fort. Where if you're doing the work in between a certain section, that could be a detour road. You can do a bypass road. They did the same thing in 6 Mans a couple of years ago when Pendry was done. But this was done by Pendry, not by the MTW. And that is time to note. The other thing, you have places like between Holders Hill and the roundabout at the bottom of University Hill. There's no real access roads to things. If anything happens between there, whenever these things have to happen where you have roadworks, the ministry is the persons responsible for the road, and the ministry have to ensure that there are alternate routes, and not just alternate routes, but adequately drivable alternate routes that people can take. This is a responsibility of the ministry, and this is something that also helps prevent the congestions that we see on many of our roads. Now, I heard the gentleman mention before, not that at this meeting and also at other meetings, take for example countries like Singapore, and you have like London, where we have similar issues. Too many cars, limited space. They did not start with flyovers. They started with managing demand, and I heard Mr. Boyne mention that in his early presentation, using the technology, not just ways that Minister Springer mentioned, not just ways, and enforcing the law. Because this is a very important factor, enforcing the law. Now, I heard Mr. Boyne mention about, let's take for example Spikestown. I'll use Spikestown as an example. When the road was made a one-way in Spikestown, there was promised to be parking meters. You don't even see I don't even see a police as a parking meter in Spikestown. And you have cars parking in all the areas. And I questioned this again back then, where myself and Mr. Husbands, we asked the question, where are going to be the designated parking areas? The designated parking areas for Spikestown, you have a car park that is hardly ever used. It is used, but not many people are using it. But there were supposed to be delivery areas. Now you have signs where you have delivery areas on the left, delivery areas on the right. It's a one-way. That road is made one-way over a year ago, and up to now, one, there are no parking meters, and still yet, people are allowed to park and even set up cones for their businesses because nobody is policing it. So again, how can you have control traffic management if you don't manage or police these things? It just wouldn't work. So these are some of the things that we have to look. So my approach is simple. And I believe that we must first fix the traffic flow immediately by synchronizing lights. We mentioned that earlier there in Royal and Westmoreland. Not just the lights, but we need to have longer layaways in terms of turning left. You have enough roads or room on these roads, especially on the belt, where you can have a left lane to turn left from a longer distance, where persons can go into that lane and allow other cars that are going straight to, traverse on that lane. Those are examples that we can use in those areas.
Ian, just before you continue, your comments, are they listed in the presentation?
They are. Yes, they are listed.
Well, if you'd be so kind to just...
They're listed, but I'm going to wrap up shortly.
Okay, thanks.
I'm still taking the 5 minutes that you were late. So
I know, I'm keen to hear...
You're not letting go of that.
I'm keen to hear you make your presentation.
So,
you carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Now, again, I said in terms of enforcing the law, we have too many times Highway 1. And I know that the Royal Barbados Police Service is here, and they would tell you, yes, they may be short of staff, but we can employ traffic wardens. Years ago, we had what we would call island constables. But you can have traffic wardens. The MTW, I think they started sometime before they have wardens that will go out there and look at the public service vehicles and how they're operated. But I think it is ridiculous that you have public service vehicles doing as they feel like on the road, and then the penalties, I think some of them laugh at the penalties, because we have to if we're not going to get serious in terms of managing them, they will always be doing what they are doing. And you don't want to stop anybody from making a living, but you can make a living if you operate within the laws. Simple as that. But somebody have to police it, and if the Barbados Police Service does not have the manpower, the Ministry of Transport and Works can employ traffic wardens. They employ traffic wardens to give out parking tickets in the city and other areas Why not employ traffic wardens to be along those major roads like Highway 1 and Highway 7 to ensure that the public service vehicles operate within the regulatory aspects that they have to operate in. Now, we talk about park and ride systems. I heard this a long time before. You have places like Combermere, where you have botanical gardens, wide open space. But yet still you have persons parking or stopping on the road, in the road there by Waterford, where you can have botanical gardens. Designate a parking area. Many schools have areas that they can designate parking areas to drop off school children. Right, so I asked the question, with over 120,000 vehicles already on our roads, with one of the densest road systems in the world, and with commuters already losing over an hour a day in traffic, I asked the question, will there be a cost-benefit analysis, right? Also, I want to express the problem with town planning. I heard it mentioned today. I can give you an example. How it is that town planning can approve the building of commercial buildings for activities to serve the public, but yet still you have poor access in and out of those buildings. I believe town planning have to work in conjunction with the Ministry of Transport and Works for that. And I give you the example. Kentucky here in Spikestown. You have persons exiting Kentucky and Spikestown and turning right, even though there's a sign. Kentucky have a sign, the arrow pointing, turning left. But persons are turning right across a middle lane, which is dangerous to traffic. You have persons entering Kentucky. And along line the traffic on the road, we have Wildy, Shafet in Wildy, Shafet in 6 Roads. My question is, didn't town planning look at these things? Didn't town planning have some sort of understanding and working relationship with NPW? How can they be given approval for this? Because if I want to build a home, and my garage is exiting, my roadway is exiting near a corner, I can't have it done there. So we have to look at how town planning operates with NPW.
Okay, Ian, I'm gonna need you to wrap up because
yes,
you
I'm wrapping it now.
others, and you've already used my 5 minutes.
Oh shit! That's the 5 minutes before you settle.
Just wrap up, please. Because
so I'm going to wrap up now. So my thing is, we have to look at policing and supervision, right? And we have to change the attitudes. And the reason I said change attitudes is, today, when I asked the question about how the Barbados Water Authority, we had persons could not get out from my workplace in certain sections. We had the water turned off in many areas. No one said anything from the Barbados Water Authority. On Sunday, when I spoke to the supervisor, a notice will go out on social media the Saturday. That is not good enough. It is not good enough. You had ample time to coordinate what is going to happen. And I believe Ministry of Transport and Works is responsible for the road use. So all utility services have to come through Ministry of Transport and Works, and that has to be properly coordinated. So, Mr. Minister, I've heard many people say that you have had a good track record with the minister. I actually start here and say that I admire the way you speak very calmly and very positively. And I hope that these are not just words that you're using in these consultations, but they're words of action that will be implemented. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Jason?
Relative to the Combermere parking issue, well, that is definitely an issue that's on our radar, and I've noticed that it has gotten worse, and we are looking at putting a roundabout in the area, but in terms of a parking area, I take on board your points with a designated parking area. That can be a useful idea that we can look to utilize. The KFC issues, in fact, all of the drive-through areas, KFCs and the other restaurants, they do create significant problems for traffic across the country. And that is something that we're going to have to work with town planning going forward to address that, because it is happening often, and it's happening on all the important routes, and I think it's an important bugbear that we need to definitely address. Traffic wardens, the licensing authority does have traffic inspectors. I think the transport inspectors, however, they may have an. In fact, better I will let Trika answer that.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Robert Smith, staying in charge of the Traffic Division by Base Police Service. So, Mr. Griffith, yes, it might seem to members of the public that the police are not doing enough when it comes to public service vehicles. But they are being reported every day and placed before the lower courts. It's just that some of the results that happen to these public service operators are not published in the media so that the public will see that fines are being placed on these persons. Yes, we know that there are a lot of public service vehicles throughout the island, and our resources to manage all of them might be inadequate at this moment, but we are putting up a good fight on the road. So just bear with us, and we work together with the licensing and the ministry, and we will get this matter sorted, hopefully sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, Trika, you were offering a comment?
Yes, over the years, licensing authority had transport inspectors. We're down to 3 for the whole of Barbados. Yes, that sounds bad. However, we have a solution. We're going to be employing much more transport inspectors, and we're also going to be continuing working with the police. Although the information is not publicized of basically what we have been doing, we have been working with Transport Authority, who have been taking away permits from the owners, and also their punishments to the drivers as well. This information, yes, was not published, but it has commenced. So we are actively working with the authorities to get the situation managed.
Just so you know, as part of our approach, Mr. Griffith, definitely the government has fully supported the need to bring on additional persons, so you're going to be seeing a lot more people on the streets, helping us to manage this traffic problem. But I take your point about the behavioral issues and the need for all of us at different aspects to be able to change our behavior. Somebody called it traffic etiquette at one of the other meetings. The need for Barbadians to display more traffic etiquette. And that a lot of what we're facing is just Barbadians being very unkind to other Barbadians. People blocking the road and preventing people from getting out. We were told to create the yellow box in certain areas by the roundabouts and by the traffic lights, so people cannot go in those lanes, those particular areas, unless they have a clear drive-through. So there are a number of things, and I suspect we'll be able to roll them out. I'm thankful for the points. You gave us quite a few. And hopefully when we come back, because our intention is after we've gathered the information to come back and present where we're going, that I will find you a much happier northern man than you were when you came into this room, as you told me when I first entered. So hopefully we will be able to implement some of these, because the truth is, I mean, I live in the north, he lives in the north, people live in the north, and we have to be able to do better. I should also say, though, that a lot of the works in St. Lucie now are works by the Barbados Water Authority that is meant to correct a very serious problem. That the pipes that we're laying in St. Lucie is meant, as you know, a lot of the pipes are over 100 years old. A lot of those water pipes, a lot of those mains are 100 years old. And that when the water comes through, the darkening color of the water is because of a lot of rust and so on in the pipes. And so we're working on a filtration system for the north and changing the pipes. So I asked the residents just to give us a little bit of grace, but I do take the point that we have to communicate better about what we're doing, how long it's going to take, when roads are going to be closed. I had the very frustrating reality the other night coming up this road, and when you got past where you could turn off, is then they tell you that the road is blocked. And then you got to turn around, or you got to go down and come out. So I understand that. If I have said it to the staff, we need to, persons who are doing the work for us, because we hire major contractors, we have to communicate with them too, like on the nights when they're going to block the road. Let people know a few hundred meters earlier so they could make reasonable choices. But I take the point, and hopefully we can make some improvements on those areas. But thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Minister. Let's move on now, and we are at number 6. All right, so remember, we're keeping it brief. All right? Thank you very much.
Good night. My name is Damien Biff. I touch the whole of Barbados daily. The problem is that we don't like to give way. We don't like to give way. We don't like to make room. This flyover thing, I don't like it because Erie Cox closed off from Barbados. St. Andrew shut off from Barbados because the bridge is broken down. St. Joseph shut off from Barbados because the bridge is broken down. All done with cement or whatever they done with years ago. You say back in 1983, y'all did, that's the last thing they get inspected. So when we do this flyover now, every 3 months we can shut it off and examine it thoroughly and make sure it's good. I will hope. My solution is put a roundabout at the bell. Because if you come from St. Philip and you traverse down through to Turnpike and Constant in that area, you could easily come down through Lears and turn left by, when you get to the junction, turn left, follow the road to the roundabout, and you could go around the roundabout on the ABC highway and come down to Commermere and turn and go down Commermere if you have to drop your child to Commermere or St. Michael's or whatever. All primary schools, you can go to red zone, 15 kilometers, no more. Save the children the future. That's my belief. The roads, if you look at every road that paving, the too narrow first thing, they got good drainage, big sidewalks, so that means you gotta get out and walk to your destination because of the traffic jams. And if you look at the mixture they're putting down, there's a line through the middle of the road, and I believe the water is seeping down through these lines and making up the weakest part of the road, and that's how we forming these potholes. That's my belief. Somebody will gotta prove me wrong. As for the congestion in and around town, put every light to flash. It can cause chaos, yes, but you hardly get accidents when lights are blinking. Put all that red blinking around town and near town, and you can see traffic going move a little faster because lights are what you will call making it happen to stop and wait your turn, but it's also a kickback. You can't put roundabouts everywhere, but it would be ideal to put roundabouts nearly in all these places. But we building roads now that only 3 cars can get in the right lane to turn or left lane to turn off. And we need more space for these people that turn in, all like Commermere. They could cut a lay-by there and let them park over there and then let the free flow. They need a middle lane there that could hold at least 5 40-foot containers because they turn there every day. Solutions, we need to find solutions. The materials we're using, sometimes you pave a road this morning, the rain fall and the barber can get up and go to the shop and drink because it move. It gone. Every roundabout in Barbados needs to be concreted. Every one. And it will stop the ripple and the lumping. Every road, if possible, you should get borders, not high sidewalks, because when you got sidewalks, when the emergency services have to control these roads so narrow, you can't get through. So if somebody try to go up on the sidewalk, you got to pay them for rim, shock, and the suspension.
Okay, Damien, very good points, actually.
So
you can
I
do
can
your wrap up now.
My thinking to you, since that you're near me, but Hort Road, that off the map right now, it blocked. The repairing Hort Road. The bridge in Hammonds, that was down, they said 3 years. 3 years, and that looked like a forest now. all the roads up above, the water washed them down to the highway 1. Right now, people that live in Basketball, St. Andrew, if they want to go Shuri Village, they have to come all the way back around to Diamond Corner and then go down through Cherry Tree Hill to get down to Shuri Village. If we do these back roads, a lot of people only learn about Hangman Hill recently, right? And Jack in Box Gully and those places. If those roads were wide enough and lit properly, a lot of people use them and keep off the highway. We suffer with tunnel vision. We only know one road to get where we want to get. Hangman Hill wants doing wider. Jack in Box Gully want doing thoroughly and wider. Vaultloos, don't talk about that. It's about 5. Vaultloos want paving. The one cross by, then you can cross by the district D, going up there. That's 5 years, that 40 acres in that area ain't get paved. And they put in these sidewalks to narrow the road, but you could put a truck on top of the sidewalks. That just baffle me how they got good drainage put in. Now they come and do down by BRC Street. They put in wells down there by Les Savants, and the sidewalk come around further in the road. Why we building these roads so narrow? You should build the roads that an emergency vehicle could get through the middle. Not that you gotta wait, turn to the right, go back to the left, go back to the right, and then you can hear, oh, the little sweet going down through there. But the roads are too small. There's hardly any side roads you could use right now because you can hear suspension gone. The road's bad. We need to fix these roads before you start.
Damien was at that point, I was going to tell you that's your wrap up, man. But
Yeah,
no,
but
seriously, I want you to
true.
you must also allow for response from the members of the head table.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if you make your points, then they are also making note, but you still need to allow them
But
to
you tell me
respond.
3 minutes,
All right,
I ain't
so
trying
you
to
can
speak
wrap up,
in my
please.
tree. I can wrap up now by
Thank you.
saying I will be sending a proper
So-
letter or
thank you very
something
much. Right.
to deal with the issues.
And I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, if you do plan to send a submission, then you don't need to spend so much time. Perhaps you can focus on 1 or 2 highlights, okay? Because you really must bear in mind that there are others who also want to present. And we are still at number 6.
All you
All
gotta
right?
do is
Wrap
give
up time,
people
Damien.
Okay, give people different options instead of one road to get where they want to get. Put a roundabout in Bell, done with the flyover. The left turn by turning, 3 vehicles trying to get into one narrow road. And when they straighten out now, the right turn to go in the new housing area. You gotta wait long because people from St. Philip, St. John coming down by Cassie's and come to the roundabout at Huddersfield. So nobody ain't stopping and letting them cross the road to get home or come out from home, and that's the problem. Simple solve. Do something different. If you bring people to the Bell down by Jose and come cross and you come right roundabout, come down highway, you can take some of the pressure off of Cassie's.
All right.
Simple mass.
Thank you
so
very
I can
much.
send my thinking and y'all will go from there.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
All right. Allow for Jason or Richard, your response, please.
I do agree with the suggestions for the stacking lane at Commermere and also the roundabout. That is something at the Bell. That's something we could obviously definitely look at. What I can't agree with is the placement of the traffic signals on flash. They're not there only for traffic flow. They're also a safety feature that is called a traffic calming device, just like roundabouts. And also, they're there to also make it easy for pedestrians to cross. This is not a debate that we're going to that we do a study now. This is something that is accepted all the way around the world. It's not no unique anything to Barbados. This is what it is. And it is a safety feature that is in place. And given the thousands of cars which pass let's say the Colmorock Junction per hour, there's no debate that is extremely difficult for persons to cross that junction once those lights are on flash. So that's not something that we can that we would consider.
Thank you very much.
And Damien, just let me add, I know you were being facetious in saying that St. Andrew, St. Joseph is cut off because of bridges being down. But the reality is that there are There are 3 bridges in St. Andrew right now that have been condemned, 2 of which are active construction sites right now. And for the 2 that are major, that are both on major highways, Highway C and Highway 2, both of those bridges are equipped with, the community has a bypass road in both cases that does not, that the only thing that can't pass over one of those bridges is the bus. But persons can get in and out of St. Andrew quite freely. But I take a lot of the points that you made in regards to some of the issues with congestion and so on and so forth. But there's a belief that I've heard it enough that because we've had bridges that fail over time, that fail after 70 years, that fail because of a conspiracy of events, not just one thing. And we use the St. Andrew bridges as an example because they didn't fail only because of a lack of maintenance. A number of things impacted those bridges. They were very old. They were all built on mud. They were taking loads that they weren't designed for. They were faced with these climate crisis with more intense rainfalls, things that they weren't designed for. So these things all conspire to compromise the structures down in the Scotland district especially. And because you see that, it's no indication that when, or if or when we do construct these flyovers, that we would not be in a position to properly maintain those structures. So I just want to put out there because I know usually when people talk about these roads that aren't being maintained, yes, you see potholes on our roads, and one can make the argument that is a lack of maintenance. But I know in many cases the comparison is drawn between the bridges, many of which are in the Scotland district, and the flyovers. But just note that those bridges would have been impacted by a number of different things and not just a lack of maintenance.
Thank you very much.
Which is not to say that we're not going to adequately maintain the flyovers, because it's our intention to make sure the flyovers are well maintained. And it's also our intention to maintain the bridges. The truth is that the last study was 1985, is almost unforgivable and unacceptable. And it cannot be the standard by which we do works in Barbados. And I think the persons in the ministry have already recognized that. That's why I think there was a study done being done.
We are currently, we've undertaken some training with regard to bridge management and inspection over the last month or so. And I'm hoping that that entire program culminates in on-the-ground inspections going on later this year, where we examine all of the bridges on the island and are able to update our information with regard to their condition and ultimately be able to implement maintenance programs that are suitable to each bridge.
Thank you very much. Number 7.
Good evening, ministers. Good evening, PS. Good evening to the other members of the team. Danielle Evanson. I would want to start by saying when I first saw the announcement of the consultations, I was concerned. In terms of how it was framed as congestion, addressing congestion, because congestion is a symptomatic problem. It's a symptomatic issue and not the root cause of the problem. So as the participants would have shared, everybody expressed their concerns about mobility, which is more the broader issue, and thereafter the presentations and so on reflected that expression that the public was calling for. And mobility is not an issue that MTW, while having a key role and a leading role, is not something that MTW can address alone, as I think one of the ladies had raised, because it relates to issues of education, of housing, commerce, town planning, and many other factors that contribute to why people do the things that they do in terms of how they get around. So I want to make 3 quick points. So in terms of the why, the kind of data that we are
collecting, the integration of the data that we are collecting, and not just specifically transport or car related, but the broader data sets that would contribute to understanding why people's behavior is the way it is. And even some of the data that would have been presented at the various consultations. We didn't see anything in relation to how the modal share for public transport has dropped from about 20% in 2012 to maybe somewhere between 11 and 15% now. We didn't see anything about sidewalk coverage per kilometer. Surveys show that 81% of the daily trips across Barbados happen by car. And 80% of those only have 1 or 2 people in the car. So we have a congestion issue generated by that low occupancy. 87% of people with more than 1 NCD drive by car, so perpetuating that sedentary behavior. And persons with disabilities use public transport the most, so also considering the different categories of people and how they get around. But also, there seems to be a narrative that Bajans want to cling to their vehicles, but more than 80% of people have said that bus lanes and cycle lanes would move them to consider those as viable options instead of driving. 2, I would say that for my one part, I think that a determination on flyovers at this stage is premature. As my sister would have said, have we compared different designs? Have we done the feasibility studies? Have we done the EIAs? There hasn't been a town hall on it, so you know, an outcome of an EIA could be to say the risks are too high, so this is not an option, so you consider something else. Have the comparative cost-benefit analysis been done between the flyovers and the various other options that have been suggested over the course of the last 2 weeks? So I would want to suggest that before we spend millions and millions on flyovers, construction, and maintenance, that we would consider strategic, less costly, adjustable, reversible, and potentially very high impact options. We can finish the trailway. We can, obviously, we're doing all of the restructuring of the transport board, the Mass Transit Authority, GPS tracking every single PSV alongside the transport board and integrating them into one scheduled, timetabled system, because the PSV fleet is 4 to 5 times greater than the transport board fleet. So they are necessary in order to be able to meet the demand for public transport, and also looking at the fare structures and how we manage that to be able to disincentivize the hustle culture that we see. We also need to consider things like, yes, the app is great, and I hope that we recruit people to help test it to make sure that it, that it's meeting the needs, because I've played around with it and we're not quite, anyhow.
Is your final point now, please?
One more. But that we cannot assume that everybody's experience is like ours. So reliance on apps are great, but there are people that don't have data on their phone. They don't have phones. So we also need to think about the things like the live update screens at the bus stops and so on with the timetable. Finally, in every consultation we have, somebody has mentioned Singapore. And what I would want us to not just lament, but to learn from the Singapore experience. They have been, since the 1970s, they foresaw that unregulated, uncontrolled vehicle growth was going to be a major problem. So since then, they have experimented, they have tweaked, they have planned, they do master planning for in excess of 15 years. Their current master plan goes to 2040, and they are already in the public consultation process of revising it. I would encourage everybody to just check lta.gov.sg, consultation.gov.sg to see the kinds of mechanisms that they use to gather information from the public and to also be accountable in reporting on the targets that they have set in their master plans. I would also finally say that the Mission Barbados Roadmap commits to the accelerated development of a comprehensive sustainable mobility plan to decrease car dependence and to decrease emissions. And Mission Board 1 agreed to that as a goal last year, as one of its targets last year. And the Decarbonization Subcommittee is very keen to be engaged in that process. And so there needs to be, to my mind, a level of congruence between those goals and whatever emerges from this process, but also framing it, I would suggest, in a avoid shift, improve framework, and also having that visioning that is a collaborative process among the public and the various sectors in Barbados about what we want the future of our transport system, our mobility system to look like.
Thank you very much.
Oh, actual transport issues, traffic issues. Richard?
Is this your final?
Yes.
You really need to wrap up
Yes.
now.
Richard, please fix Shop Hill, please.
Richard, please fix Shop Hill. That's your final comment?
There is a behavior that has emerged where on the highway approaching roundabouts, people seem to think that it is reasonable to turn right from the left lane. It has grown in practice, it has expanded from the Simpson Motors roundabout to other roundabouts. I have been on the inside of a cane truck. If I was going straight, so most of accidents there, I'm sure, are attributed to that. And information boards on roadworks, the road by Lastavon, I just keep having to guess what is happening. I'm not sure, and we face it every day, and we figured out that there's drainage. Now we see drainage, but we don't know what it is, when it will end, who's doing it, or anything of the sort. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say I welcome your comments. And you did speak in terms of information. We are about to embark on an exercise to gather some what we call an origin destination survey. That is to help us understand the same travel patterns that you are saying, and then we will use that to help inform our future decisions. But even further afield from that, we will be doing a household survey to delve even deeper into the necessary information to help us to plan, as you say, 15, but we're looking more towards 20 years into the future in terms of how traffic will grow, where people will likely go, how it will impact the road network, and also we can develop solutions 20 years into the future and start planning just like Singapore and other places to address the issue before it even starts.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. Remember that you can offer your submissions by email to information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb or WhatsApp 266-3780. And we will have our final consultation next week, Wednesday, at Leicester Vaughan. So there's always an opportunity for you to offer your comments, whether in person or via online. Number 8.
Before you get to
sorry, PS.
Before you get to number 8, Danielle, I was expecting a comprehensive submission from you, and you did not disappoint. But I just want to say that the measures that the ministry will be implementing are not going to be implemented in isolation. You know, this approach is going to be multi-layered, multidisciplinary. So, of course, we'll be having consultations with the Ministry of Education, of course, with the Ministry of Health. And before I give the mic to the AF person, in relation to the the congestion on Highway 2A, I wish to inform, and I checked with the contractor to confirm or to reconfirm the completion dates, but in relation to the first phase, that is from St. Thomas Church to Bagatelle, that work is expected to be completed by the end of April. And then from St. Thomas Church to Lancaster, that is expected to be completed by the end of June. So I just want to give the persons who expressed concern about the congestion there on Highway 2A of the projected completion dates for those works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 8.
Good night. I'm Letitia Bourne, spokesperson and legal representative for the Alliance Owners of Public Transport. Something's called AOP. Thank you for having us. Greetings from Mr. Raphael and team. We're going to try to be brief because what we've found is that so much has already come out. So we wouldn't be repetitive, but we would want to give support or a few insights in relation to a few things. Number one, we do support the Spoke and Hub type of initiative. We believe that that can work, and we would like to have further dialogue as it relates to that. We believe that these hubs would stop persons from having to go into Bridgetown to get to somewhere else and so on. We think that it's part of modernity, and this is something that I believe we are ready to interact with in Barbados. So we do give support to that. Of course, it would need to be fleshed out. Further than that, we are hopeful that as it relates to some of the routes, we believe that the PSVs can do more. And indeed, we will be challenging our operators to work with us and work with the government, work with the regulators. And we are expecting, because we are doing, our earnest to try to lift that level to what we would want it to be. And we feel confident that it's going to get there, especially with the new initiatives coming on board with the transport, the Mass Transit Authority, and so on. We would like, in terms of those routes that do not go right into Bridgetown, such as the one on the ABC Highway, we do support those types of routes where you can travel from Oistins to Spikestown maybe, and Wellhouse to Warrens and so on. And we would hope that some of those routes could be liberalized a bit so that PSPs could also, the privately owned PSPs could also vie for some of those routes as well. As we speak about that, we also support the bus lanes. We do the specialized bus lanes. Certainly, they cannot work every place, but where they can work, we are happy to sit and to meet, and we do support those specialized bus lanes. One of the things, and it came out here tonight, is about recognizing the particular PSVs. We will be proposing some color coding, if we can look at that. I do know that in Trinidad, you have the different stripe, depending on if you're going to Chaguanas or San Fernando, wherever you might be going. So we would like to sit and look at that to see if that is something that could work, so that would help in some way to allow for that identification to come a little closer home. So we would like to work on that. As we speak about that, we also want to talk about the bus stops. We do recognize that some bus stops, some need to be fixed. I know for sure there's one in St. George that is leaning on a fence for quite a while. But there are bus stops that need to be fixed. And we also need additional bus stops. So this would allow, in terms of just even the flow of traffic and where people stop and all of that. And we do know we have some issues there to tidy up. As it relates to those bus stops, bus shelters. More bus shelters. We know you do get complaints sometimes about our units, but there are times that persons do not stay by the bus stop. And sometimes it relates to the fact that stand up in front of somebody's house, it might be cooler, and save them from the elements and so on. So we're hopeful that we can also have we don't have to be as significant as some of them are, but some more bus shelters as well would assist us. We support the park and ride wherever that can work. We do support that. And we think also it can generate even additional opportunities for persons who may ply their trade in terms of vending and so on. But we do support the park and ride system, and these are things that we are hopeful. We do expect to meet with ministers really and your team. So some of these we will talk about further.
That's your cue, having said that.
Okay.
To wrap up,
yes.
if there's another point you want to make, because you did say that there's a submission and then you will meet with the ministers.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay, so just another 1 minute or less. We do want to work with you as it relates to the TAP program. There are still some problems there. And we are hopeful that at some point we did make the recommendation of a person who is a spokesperson or a representative being internal, a bit more internal to iron out some of those problems. And as it relates then to we give support to the inspectors, we do agree that we need to have those inspectors. Those would give us more support as we do what we need to do. And finally, the issue of the CRT, the Constitution River Terminal, and the nighttime. The nighttime, there's a problem where the passengers prefer not to go to the actual terminal because of lighting and safety issues. And it means then that we have to work out something where we are not flouting the law, and we can have passengers feeling safe and operators also feeling safe, where persons are not comfortable going to that Constitution terminal because of the lighting and safety issues. All right. But
thank you.
Those are our points at this time.
All right,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the head table?
Yes, I am not from Transport Authority. However, I can speak about one aspect. Any request for the bus stops and also the bus shelters, you can submit the application letters to the Transport Authority, and it'll be considered, and you most likely get the bus stop and the shelter. Right, so you can make your submissions there.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks for the submission. I believe that the conversation with the PSV set to all the various umbrella bodies is going to be very, very important. If we're going to solve this traffic problem, we have to meet with the PSV sector. So I look forward to having those meetings. Not next week because we're booked, but the following week for sure we're going to schedule meetings with all the umbrella bodies. I know I'm supposed to be appearing at something in April. So I hope we can meet before that, where I'm supposed to be the featured speaker. So hopefully we can solve our problems before we get to that speech, because then you might be upset with me. And I would not want that at all. But I did hear you say, and I'm happy to hear you say that you're keen on being part of the bigger solution. I suspect that there's more in the mortar than the pestle when it comes to some of the issues pertaining to the PSV sector. So we need to have those conversations soonest and try to form a way that we could deliver to the people. I also hold the view that the vast majority of people who conduct and who are involved in that business are actually good people, but that there are some who do some things on the road that just are questionable. But I heard you, you're a good corporate citizen, so you stop any person sheltering by your house, and you may stop to make sure that they're coming off of the darkness, and I understand you're a good corporate citizen, I appreciate that. But we wouldn't want to break the law now, Roy. So I think in the areas where it's too dark, we have a responsibility to provide light. And if it is that there's not enough bus shelters, then we have to provide the bus shelters. But at the same time, we all have to abide by the law. All right, thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Number 9.
Good night, all. Protocols all already established. My name is Peter Rochester. I live in St. Peter. And my first comment comes back to the first two speakers that spoke about, and they were spoken about the congestion on Highway 2A. Never in my life what I thought, coming up from where I live, and I live in the intersection opposite Hemans, that I would thought that I would run into a traffic jam on Highway 2A. That tells me that, as has been said, that we really need some truly bold and very progressive approach to resolving the challenges that we have. I will try to summarize a number of my presentation, and I will also submit it to the information unit email as presented. One of those had to do with what we call a suggestion for solution for traffic flow in and around Bridgetown. I was hearing about possibly establishing of a circular loop or traffic loops. And I made a suggestion which I hope can be considered as part of the traffic route through Bridgetown, which would encompass a circular loop running from the bottom of Broad Street straight through to John Beckles Drive, coming around John Beckles Drive back to, I can't recall the road, is it Constitution Road? Back to the lights and around Wharf Road to meet back at Cole Street. And I was thinking about that because part of the biggest problem that we have on these roads are these choke points. A lot of these choke points have to do with traffic turning left or traffic merging in a particular area and people blocking the intersections. So if you could create a flow of traffic that could avoid that, it would help in terms of traffic flow. And it also creates additional lanes of flow in a particular area. I know some agents may not probably like that because we don't like to travel, let's say, a little longer to get where we're going. But I find in certain cases it works. And that brings me back to another choke point on Highway 1, Holton. Between Porters and, I would say, Massey, there are 4 choke points on that road, and all have to do primarily with traffic turning either right onto Highway 1 or right into the by roads. Porters, Trents, Lane Grove, and Massey, especially on evenings, when people coming in and out of the traffic. Ironically, my suggestion was if you can establish a circular route in that area from Porters to Cemetery Lane, that will help ease, because what could happen is you could have 2 lanes of traffic flowing in a circular direction, avoiding that right turn off and onto and off that highway. And maybe that will help. I'm not saying traffic is going to flow fantastically. I know you've got a particular problem establishing the route, especially around Lane Grove. But already on evenings, I found, yesterday I was on my way to town, there is what we call already 2 lanes of traffic flowing. One on the highway, which is blocked up, and then one on the road, which circles around above Massey. And they had what we call a traffic creep, especially on the road circle around Massey from Cemetery Lane to Lane Grove. We have a lot of roads in Barbados. We have a dense network, and especially in Bridgetown. But we have too many, which we have what we call single lane roads. And why haven't we established, especially when it can be accommodated, dual lane roads that at least ease the flow and have more flow of traffic in a circular route?
Okay, sir. You can.
Okay. That is one of the solutions that
Because remember, sorry to interrupt you, we don't want a situation in terms of time with people, leaving and not being able to present or to listen to others. So try to be as brief and concise as possible. Okay? Please be reminded of that. So just wrap up, please, and then I'll give you the email and the WhatsApp number one more time. Your wrap up, sir.
Duly noted. And if you could allow me to at least extrapolate on another option. I hear and I understand the need that a highway 2A is possibly going to be increased to a 4-lane highway. Right now, we have what we call a congestion of traffic, increased flow of traffic coming from the north, traveling that highway. Yes, that can help ease it. I also note that there's a lot of housing development and business development that's happening right now in the north of St. Peter and the St. Lucie, which is going to create the need for more traffic to be traveling that road. One suggestion I'm suggesting, which is a bold suggestion, is maybe we need to look at establishing or building a new highway linking the north. And I would say from Greenwich's, a north coming across country, parallel to that road, which will probably connect somewhere in the Warriors area. And then talk about a true highway, not like the highways that we built, but with strategic points, where then you will have feeder roads that could connect people to take them off, whether to be Highway 2A or Highway 1, to get to the destination that they're going. I'm looking at that because of the increased increased flow of traffic that may be coming from those particular areas.
All right, thank you very much.
Just one other point. We talk about parking rate.
My cousin.
Just one point. I try to take I'm not going to do like my friend, colleague, Ian, take his 5 minutes or something. In terms of parking rate, one of my pet peeve is why isn't the Spicetown terminal operated as a true terminal, bus terminal for service in the north? Why is it that a bus, people, let's say, traveling to Pike Corner, and I'm using that example, have to be waiting on Highway 1 for a Pike Corner bus coming from Bridgetown? You should be having buses routed from Bridgetown to Spicetown. And the terminal in Spicetown acted as a true terminal for service in the north. I find that I am amazed, I'm boggled as to why in this days that is still happening, and why isn't the Spicetown terminal being used as a true terminal for service in the north? And for that, at that point, I will wrap up and let
Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. You know, you say that you made a submission, or that's your intention?
Yes, that's my intention.
All right, thank you very much. Minister?
We should start where you ended, and we have the CEO of the Transport Board who is here to answer questions pertaining to those things, and he has his support cast, so I think he will be happy to respond.
All right, this is the CEO of the Transport Board, Fabian Wharton.
I know you fire. Good night, everybody. And I'm happy to be here in the north, and it's glad to see everybody here. And I was listening on YouTube on my way here, and I think I've heard a lot of good suggestions that came out tonight. But just to address the last comment, the Highway 1 takes, yes, everything from Bridgetown, but we go into Spicetown. So if a person wants to get to anywhere in the north, the bus that comes from Bridgetown actually goes into Spicetown. So when you talk about, I know you were saying park and ride, you were losing me a bit, because you were talking about park and ride, and then you talk about bus service in the same breath. But on the bus service aspect, what we have is that all of those services that leave Bridgetown and go to the north, all of them go into Spicetown. So if you are going from Spicetown to Pike Corner, you basically pick up your bus from in that terminal, right? So it actually functions as a terminal. What we have also done, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, collectively between the Transport Board and the Transport Authority, was to fix a traffic issue in relations to the minibuses that used to be parked by the traffic lights and all that. We now have those buses going into the Transport Board terminal as opposed to congregating on the front. So those are some of the things that we have done. We had also discussed previously what you would call a hub and spoke, going into Spicetown, and then all the other feeder services coming out of Spicetown. So that you will not see a Bridgetown, Pike Corner, Bridgetown, Josie Hill, Bridgetown, Consultation anymore. It'll be a line bus into Spicetown and then spoke off into the north and St. Peter and those areas, right? We are looking at it. It is calling for a little more resources than we anticipated. And we had made certain commitments to the people of St. Lucie, the people in St. Peter, in relations to as we got expanded fleet. And I am happy to say that with the expanded fleet, we are now covering more of our services, particularly in Consultation, Josie Hill, Pike Corner. We do have some holes in basketball that we are now trying to work out. Today we were talking about it, especially between, it's like 10:15 and 1:15-ish, going into 2 o'clock. That was the time today we talked about, right? So that is the only area that we got a little concerned about at the moment, which is the basketball area. But by and large, what has happened over the last maybe 6 to 8 months is that we have had significant improvements in the travel going to the north of the island. I hope that addresses everything.
I thought you were brilliant, but just to be clear, my question is in relation to the point that he made about people waiting outside, that they have to wait outside. I know you said they don't have to, but I'm just trying to understand why there is this disparity in views.
Yeah, that was one way if he was talking about park. That was I was a little confused. He was talking about park and running the bus service at the same time and interchanging it too. Because you don't have to wait outside to catch the bus. You catch the bus from any terminal through the courses and into the bus. So I don't know. Yes.
Okay. Come. All right.
Sorry, my comment was not waiting outside. My comment was the fact that you said that Spicestone bus terminal act as a terminal. My position is that right now, in my position, it does not. It acts as a bus stop. What I was talking about is if someone, let's say is in Whole Town, who's going to Pike Corner or Boscobel, etc., they're waiting in Whole Town for a Boscobel bus, for a Pike Corner bus. Buses should be serviced from Bridgetown, the Spicestone terminal. When that person gets to the Spicestone terminal, they are transferred there, just as you are alluding to. Then there are buses from Spicestone that are servicing the northern routes, the Boscobel route, Pike Corner route, St. Lucie Church route, etc. You should not be scheduling buses from Bridgetown that are come down with the same Pike Corner, Boscobel, etc. Let Spicestone terminal then route the buses for those routes. That was my point.
There's a gentleman by the no. I just wanted to.
Pardon?
All right. I can go ahead?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we are commingling some things, so I'm going to go through this very slowly. The Spicestone terminal is also a depot of the Transport Board, and it is responsible for routing of services for the north of the island. So you're originating services for the north, particularly inbound when we start in the morning. All of those services originate in Spicestone. So you may not know that, right? That's one. Secondly, we have, so the buses that are at Spicestone feed into the Princess Alice terminal. So the route is, I know you are saying a bus should not go from Bridgetown to Pike Corner, but if I are, or to Connelltown or to Josie Hill, but you're saying this, we're actually saying the same thing, but saying it differently. Because in reality, the bus goes from Bridgetown to Spicestone, pick up any passengers that want to get from Spicestone into the north. So therefore, we are basically saying the same thing. So the bus originates. It is where the service starts, where the service terminates, and where we stop the service. So if I'm in Whole Town, wherever I am in Porters, I'm in St. James, you just pick up the bus coming up. So unless I'm missing something, so what is it that I'm missing?
So let me ask you a question. Are you suggesting, just for clarity, that instead of having to wait for the bus to move from Bridgetown to come to Spicestone should serve as a natural starting point where the buses there can service more frequently and more often the people in the north?
Yeah, I may be a bit too harsh when I did say that Spicestone terminal as a bus stop.
That's fine, but I'm just trying to get to the deeper point.
Exactly. What I'm saying, because it comes down also to the proper use of buses. So any bus transport, the bus service coming along Highway 1, I'm saying should be coming from Bridgetown to Spicestone. Anybody traveling on that road who going beyond Spicestone,
and that is independent of the buses going from Spicestone to other parts of the north.
But you can manage to Spicestone bus terminal, then you get a transfer to your destination. So those points serving, let's say, St. Lucie, St. Andrew, or even parts of St. Peter, St. James, you get a transfer then to those routes.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we are. That's why it was kind of confusing. We're saying we're not.
No, I was not saying that. But the buses did not go in the terminal. But yeah,
not that point. What I was seeking to do, and forgive me if I created a little confusion. I apologize. But what I was seeking to do was to simply explain how the services are structured now today, right? Because I heard some things that were not consistent with what the realities are. But what I'm saying to you is that the board has previously announced that the first place we wanted to try a hub and spoke system was along Highway 1. I think I said this about 2 years ago at Paris Speaks in St. Lucie. And I said then and I say it now again, all the buses coming to the north will take, will take a Speightstown bus and then get free connections into the north, which is what you are saying, right? So that's what maybe that is what prompted me to say we are saying the same thing, but maybe I did not present myself properly.
From that point, yes, we're saying the same thing.
Right. And secondly, what we also did is that given what was happening in the north, people were working 5 and 6 hours for a bus. We made certain commitments, we made certain changes as a consequence to what was happening in St. Andrew, which really disadvantaged the persons in St. Lucie. And we would have made public statements to indicate that when we do get these additional buses, our number one priority will be St. Lucie, which is what we have done. So I'm giving you a synopsis of how things have developed so that you can understand why is it that we are still not here yet where we're coming into hub and spoke, because now we got to look at the resources as they are, look at the services as they are, know that we are actually providing these services, see what the numbers are saying, and then start to make different changes. So we don't want to make any changes to the network when we were not even providing the services in the network. So now that we are beginning to do that, then we make the assessments and go forward maybe in the next 2 to 3 months. So that is where we are at the moment. So I hope that makes everything clear. Thank you.
No problem. It's just, and I use as an example, you know when they talk about picking low-hanging fruit?
Yeah.
That's more.
It is.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you very much. We move swiftly on to number 10. Yeah. No number 10? All right, 10, 11. Number 11.
Good evening, everyone. Ministers, heads of department, transport board. I can be very brief. I think we've gone off the rails a little bit when we're talking about traffic patterns.
Speak louder, please. Just arrange.
Sorry. I think we've gone off the whole idea of our meeting by going on the individual bits and pieces. My idea for the control of traffic would be, let's say on the South Coast, from 6:30 on mornings, make from Top Rock into Bridgetown one way, and then from Bridgetown to Wildy one way. And we can do, I don't know if you have tried it or seen it. In Brazil and I think in Germany, they have these timed roundabouts, as they call them. It's called a traffic alleviation, where between, as I said, 6:30 and 9:30, you have from Top Rock to Bridgetown in one way, and likewise Wildy. Then again, from around, say, let's say 3:30 till 6 o'clock in the opposite direction. We can do that on the West Coast as well, because I come from Maynards, and I drop a child to Crumpton Street, and we always have traffic all along that route. Another thing, too, that we have to look at, right now you're repairing Highway 2A. Along with that, you have from Content to Vaucluse. And then you have Pothole Alley from Jukes Hill to the school. Pardon? Pothole Alley. Yeah, it's Pothole Alley. All right? Another thing is, now, every 5 years we have to go and get milling and paving. And why don't we take Highway 2A and do a test case and do it in concrete from, let's say, how many times have we repaired since the roundabout has been done at St. Patrick's? Look at the roundabout by Cost You Less. That has been done a number of times. And before it can be done, there's another pothole. I think a gentleman spotted where the asphalt is joint, and it creates a pothole. And it's basically because of the weight of the traffic, the amount of tires on the long trailers. So it is a very well-used road. So we got to look also at concrete roads. The last one would be just scheduling. When you have, I think somebody here alluded earlier to it. Mr. Rochester, I think, also alluded to doing the traffic patterns around West Coast and South Coast. Make everything one way. And I think what will happen is it would move traffic along very quickly. They did it in Brazil. We could probably look at the Brazil model. They did it in Germany, and they had the same problems. Too many vehicles in a small space, and it worked. And it alleviated the need to put in these flyovers.
All right, thank you very much.
All right?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't recall you stating your name. Introducing yourself?
Richard Edwards. Yeah.
Richard Edwards, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Richard, and I must say thanks for the comments. The suggestions relative to the reversible solution, this is something that we will be looking at. It's not something that we are not looking at, but we are definitely looking at that. But we're also looking at one-way solutions as well, and a number of other solutions we're considering. All right.
All right, thank you very much. Number 12.
Good night, everybody. Denzel Boyce, protocol established. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for coming out. I attended many town hall meetings in Barbados, and most often it was just like me, the presenters, and the press. So, and I think this is outstanding. I feel bad about the terms on which we are meeting, but I look forward to the way forward being better, being with a lot more public participation and so on. So last time I raised some issues, tonight I would like to offer some ideas and see where we can go from there. Fortunately for me, a lot of the ideas that I was about to offer has been offered already tonight. Some of the circular solutions, to join the circular solutions back to straight, we could implement some roundabouts in certain cases. A lot of the schools we have, we could turn them circular as well. I will use St. Albans Primary as an example. St. Albans Primary is between Taylor's Road and St. James and Crick Hill. If we could put a road on the above side of the school, which in the school has a gate on either side already, we could alleviate some of the traffic in that area. Now, this is just an idea. This is something that could be implemented as early as tomorrow morning. All you will need to do is open both gates, allow the parents to pass through, drop off the children, come out the other side. If it creates congestion on the Crick Hill side, what you could do is remove the block and wall. White wall at the bottom is like a triangular shaped wall. It just has like a couple trees and a few wire poles in it. And this could alleviate problems in that manner. As it relates to the whole town, with the Massey, and I think one of the other members here tonight spoke to that, it's high time that we start using some circular solutions. Another member spoke about parallel roads being on the use. We have a situation where in Cemetery Lane, there's a road almost opposite to Cemetery Lane, which belongs to the Sandy Lane Property Owners Association. They have erected some barriers rendering that road useless. That could alleviate some of the stress in the whole town area. As it relates to Spikestown, I remember when I was a lot younger, we had built a massive hotel in Spikestown called Haywoods. Once we constructed Haywoods, we diverted all of the traffic across the highway. That killed off a lot of the businesses in Spikestown. As a result, Spikestown is what it is now. We created now a one-way in Spikestown going towards the north, which is I think is a better solution. Unfortunately, I was in Spikestown one day and I saw where people weren't parked properly and the garbage collection had the whole of Spikestown blocked up for like 4 hours. Nonsense. I think overall some of the ideas we can take away from this is we need better communication between ourselves as ministries, between ministries and the public, between the emergency services and everybody else. And I think we're making a lot of headway. I don't know how much more time I have, Mr. Master Ceremonies, or...
We can easily say no more.
All right. Well, thanks for the time. And
let's wrap up time. I think you were at the last consultation.
Yes, I was.
Yes, I know you look familiar.
Yeah, but
You want to give your wrap-up
this
point
time you
now?
this time you came with solutions. And last
Yes.
time
Yeah.
you have another point to make. You've only been on for 3 minutes and 18 seconds.
Well,
Yeah,
as
just
it
do
re-
your wrap-up now.
As it relates, well, I don't really. If you need me to stop, I can stop because I don't need it. But I will say this: I also work with farming and I also work with water sports. As it relates to water sports, for transporting persons by sea, it should not be a big issue. I think it would generate some more revenue in certain areas, and it is something that could be done probably tomorrow morning. As it relates to farming, being involved in that industry for a while, there are lots of roads. When Barbados was involved in sugarcane production, we had a lot worse roads and we were far more productive. That is an option that anybody could look into, time permitting. And lastly, I would like to suggest that we try to create some spaces where tourists could access the beaches a lot easier and a lot better. Everybody who comes to Barbados is not going to stay in a hotel, and they will want to traverse and experience Barbados as a whole. For this to happen, some people use cars, some people use buses. Some of the nicer beaches in Barbados are along the west coast, like Gibbs Beach. Gibbs Beach is not really accessible. There's a problem there now by the bottom of the Seventh Day Adventist Church in the garden where people are parking to try to access the beach below by Royal Pavilion. And Lone Star, that general area. These are areas that I believe that government needs to grab hold of and hit the ground running going forward. And another thing is we will need to acquire some land from some people, and now is the time to do it. So rather than waiting another 20 years and still going the same issues and getting more issues on top of the issues we already have, I think we need to grab the bull by the horns going forward. And then
Thank
we'll
you
wrap
very
it there.
much. Thank you. Number 13.
Good night, Jerry Griffith. I want to support much of what Mr. Rochester said. I just want to add some timelines to what he said. 2 years ago, I used to have to make the trip to town from St. Peter. Yeah, one to Eagle Hall and one to Combermere. I could leave home at 7:45, and I could make my first drop in Eagle Hall by 8:30 and the one to Combermere by 8:45. If I leave home later than 6:45 now, I can't get there by 9 o'clock to either one, okay? My daughter, she works in Newton. If she leaves home at 7 in the morning, she cannot get to work by 9 o'clock using Highway 2A. If she goes East Coast, she can leave home at 8 and get there by 9. If she goes Coggins, she can do the same. As it relates to the traffic in the north, just imagine you're coming from St. Peter, St. Lucie, you're picking up traffic or adding to traffic in St. Peter, St. James coming up, and some people are going as far as Christchurch. Do we really need to use the same land space for everybody moving in that direction?
All right, need you to step closer to the mic.
Yeah, sorry.
Right, you could.
Do we really need to use that same space, road space, for everybody heading in that direction? Don't you think it's about time that we probably look at a road through the center of the island? And I don't know about the flyover or whatever, but it doesn't have to be land-based. It could be, I don't know what you call it, highway in the sky, whatever, but come through the center, and I think it would alleviate a lot of the traffic. Because right now everybody's coming here, heading into Bridgetown, heading into Oistins, whatever, and they're using the same. So bound to become some, congestion. So just my 2 cents, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for your comment. I want to remind persons that you can also email your submissions to information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb, and the WhatsApp number is 266-3780. Let's move on swiftly now to number 14.
Good night, everybody. My name is Kwame Durridge. I'm a graduate civil engineer. I travel to British a lot, but so far this year, 90% of the time, I tell my old man is Gabashiba. It don't make no sense. But traveling through Old Town, I have a suggestion for the 3 junctions or 3 major junctions that, in my opinion, are causing some traffic. That's the Massey Junction, Trent, and basically the intersection by the Methodist Church by Lime Grove. We know that everybody knows hotels are coming, and even the police station that is going to be retrofitted as a hotel. My suggestion is that from the new hotel that is coming there, Royalton, to the stretch up to Sunset Crest, all the hotels or exits that are on the side of the coastline turn left. Right? Don't let them turn right, let them turn left. At the Massey Junction, the traffic that comes north to turn into go to Massey, you allow for a slipway so that the traffic that is coming south can easily go into Massey and cross over. The traffic that is coming north from the south, you widen the road, and of course you put traffic lights there, and you allow for traffic lights for the person to turn in to the Massey. The junction at the Methodist Church, all right, the traffic that is coming down from the highway, don't allow any right turns, all right, don't allow any right turns for the person to come over and block traffic. If the person eventually wants to turn right, there is an exit before Lime Grove to the left that will carry in the direction behind Massey. So they will turn left and then turn right, and then follow into the traffic lights, then to turn right to go down the road. All right? And then the Trent, I believe by St. James School, that's the biggest problem, in my opinion. That causes traffic all down to St. Peter roundabout, Spike Sun roundabout. I strongly believe that you could put a roundabout at that location. All right? Opposite the hotel, before the bridge, as you guys know, they're building, we call it James Park. James Park is building, well, that location is building a building. A building is going there. So the individuals that come out of Jamestown Park or James Park, you don't allow them to cross the traffic, but you basically just allow them to turn left. All right? So those 3 junctions, don't allow them to cross, but if you allow them to cross, they have to follow traffic light signals. And the traffic light signals would be at the Massey Junction and the Lime Grove Junction. And if you say going south, both junctions should be saying go south together. And if everybody's saying going north and the green light say go north, all 2 lights should be saying go north, so that no one would cross, because the crossing is what causing the traffic, in my opinion. All right? My last few points is that vans, the same way you drive fast and get reported, the same way you drive slow, you get reported. All right? It should acquire the same way of punishment, in my opinion. You drive fast, you kill some person. You drive too slow, you could get fired and get no work. That's one.
In that case, Raphael, we can end up finding all these ZRs on Sundays, Sunday afternoons, Sunday evenings, but after 5 o'clock.
But please don't. Driving too slow, but the reason, let us qualify driving too slow. Qualifying driving too slow is a line of traffic. On a Sunday, they could drive slow and have no traffic. Yeah, all right?
Not these Sundays, though.
Yeah. So you drive slow, you have a lane of traffic, yeah, come off the road. All right?
See, but in law, it's going to be difficult to say you're driving slow if there's traffic.
No,
It
well,
would have to be that you're driving slow.
Driving slow and have a line of 10 cars behind you. You put a value to it.
More than 10, come on.
Or more than 10.
But
You put a value to it.
I get
Yeah.
the point for sure.
All right? Laybys. We know that the vans are not using the laybys. So, but there are bus stops without laybys. So you put a white rectangle in the road. Stop there. All right? They might not stop at the bus stop, but you put a length of 2 buses and you give them some white stripes and tell them, hey, they might not understand stop at the bus stop, but they should understand stop in the square. They should. And that is more black and white than stop at the bus stop. So if they don't stop in the square, get off the road. All right, that's my opinion.
All right, you're at the wrap-up point now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are you making a submission? Are you offering a written submission to the ministry?
No. Last point here. You're going to have an increase of traffic in Houghton within the next 3 to 4 years, all right? Because you're going to have tons of visitors. So you're going to have tons of vendors. I think you guys need to look at future-proofing vending from in Houghton. Because you are going to get vending in Houghton, and basically garbage collection should be done at night in high traffic areas. Not in communities, but in high traffic areas. There's no way that I don't think I should be. I don't say no way. I should be driving behind a garbage truck at high peak time in the morning between 6:30 and 10 on Highway 1 or Highway 2. And I would understand if they're driving to go to a location in a community, but collecting garbage at that time, I don't think it should be happening. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just want to say I welcome your suggestions relative to what's happening for Houghton, and there's some stuff that we can look at. And I do agree with you. There are some bus stops in the area on Houghton opposite Massey. I think there's one that doesn't have a lay-by, and anytime a PSV stops, it does add to the congestion in the area. And then there's another bus stop that is opposite Lime Grove, where there is space for the buses to pull to the left, but they don't pull to the left. They just stop in the middle of the road and nothing can't pass. So yes, we have to look at that as well, right?
Thank you very much. Number 15.
Good evening. My name is Petrina Devonish. I am happy that the minister lives on this side of the island and he happens to be the minister.
It's really louder, please.
I'm happy that the minister lives on this side of the island and he is the Minister of Transport and Works, because usually people speak about things but then they don't experience it. So I'm happy that you're experiencing our traffic issues so you can identify with what we're saying. I have 3 points. It'll be very quick. They may have been mentioned before. I was late, so I missed the presentation. So my first point is a bus priority system. This is one where we have dedicated bus lanes where they have limited stops. There are priorities at the traffic lights. There's an off-board fare payment, platform level boarding, high capacity buses, not these electric buses that are not fit for our roads, and then a park and ride system. I think this is a high impact intervention and it would work for our island. So what it involves is dedicated bus lanes only at the most congested corridors, queue jump lanes at major intersections, that is short lanes that let buses bypass long queues, traffic signal priority for buses. When a bus is approaching, the green light automatically comes so the bus can pass through. And then it has limited stops and express services during peak hours. This moves about 40 to 60 people in the space of like 3 cars. It makes buses faster than the cars, so people actually want to switch. But obviously for this to happen, we need to have a proper bus routing system and proper buses that can traverse our roads without them being in a depot and not working, doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I think with proper planning, these bus routes, that this is something that can work. There's no major money spent on widening roads and stuff like that. We have the bike lanes that they can use, and I think that that is something that we definitely can look at, that we can work with the existing road structure, and it's fast to implement, 6 to 12 months, and we can see how it works and then regroup and do what we need to do. My second point is demand management. I think other people talked about this, staggered work hours. Government and large employers start work at different times, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. It's extremely cheap. There's an immediate impact, like the guy here said, it could start tomorrow morning. Partial remote work, 2 to 3 days a week. The focus mainly on the public sector and large employers. Even that should be like a 10 to 15% reduction in peak traffic in the morning. And my third point is strict traffic enforcement and behavior change. I've heard people talking about it all afternoon. No stopping on main roads, no double parking, lane discipline, bus lane violations, and most importantly here, illegal taxi and minibus stopping. Someone alluded to the fact earlier that these ZRs really run the road. I don't know, I heard the officers speak earlier about something, but I'm not sure that that's happening because they still do what they feel like doing, and they are a major headache for everybody, a major headache. And what needs to happen here is that it needs political backing. We need to enforce. I think the lady here in the panel, the only lady, spoke about things were happening, but I am an accountant and an auditor, and if it's not documented, it's not done. If we don't know that this is what's happening, we will all assume that it's not happening, right? And if we continue to see them doing the same things, it will continue to a problem. These fines clearly are not an issue because they get fines and they still come and do the same thing. My suggestion there is that when they come to get their permits, that you not give them a permit for a period of time because you've had 20 violations, it's continuing, and you need to find a way to sort out the ZR issue because it is a real issue. And those are my points for the evening.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you for your comments. I mean, some of them we would have touched already relative to the bus priority system, the bus lanes and all that type of stuff. So we're actually actively looking at those options, all right?
Thank you. Let's move on now to number 16.
My name is Curtis Small. It's difficult to come at this time when most people would have given their suggestions, but I just want to highlight a few points here. Now, you hear coming from the head table most of the time that this thing is on the radar, but I don't know how far your radar is focusing, because I recall going to a town hall meeting at St. Thomas Parish Church, and that would have to be before COVID, and that was in relation to widening Highway 2A. It has not happened as yet. I don't know how far the plans are, but you probably need to focus more on your radar. I don't agree with some of the things mentioned in terms in Bridgetown with having this lane, a bus lane and bicycle lane, because the amount of traffic coming out of Bridgetown, and you know restricting one lane for cars to come out, I think it would create chaos there. In terms of the parking wide, that can only be effective if you have a proper bus service. And for years now, the service, of the bus have not been what we would expect it to be. One of the issues with these minibuses, which I believe we got to get real serious with them. This government, the last government, for whatever reason, don't seem to be able to get these minibus men and ZR men control. Maybe rather than building these areas for parking right, we need to build an area to impound them. Simple. No, let's be real. Because, you're traveling on highway two of these guys, one came from Spikestone, one came from Bridgetown, and they stop and talk. I mean, all these things add to congestion of traffic, right? The ferry system, that can only work if it's going to be cost effective, because there's no way I'm going to be paying for a car and then have to pay $5, $10 to get to Bridgetown. Maybe $5, because you probably end up paying parking in Bridgetown, if you're driving to Bridgetown. So the fee, if you're having a ferry system from Spikestone to Bridgetown and one from Oystons to Bridgetown, that fee must be cost effective to those who want to travel by the ferry. I agree with the roundabouts that lane needs to be, that demarcation needs to be put there, because people come in the roundabout, they can't go anywhere, but they block the guys coming from the left. And I know the police guys said that they're trying their best and doing their best with the ZRs, but I still think, from a layman looking on, that enough, maybe it's the court system. I know some guys, some of these guys has 100 and something charges, and they're yet to get a court date. So maybe that's something that, the government need. I know recently they put in judges. Maybe they should have a separate or 2 traffic courts so that these cases can be heard more frequently, and that these drivers and owners can be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you also. Thank you very much. All right, we move on now to number 17.
Just one more, just to respond to the last comments. Yes, we've been looking at the junction boxes. That is something we'll be looking at. But I know you indicated, relative, that you don't support the bus lanes, and I understand your comment that it could end up in obviously increased congestion. But we must make this point that our network is so heavily built out, and it's unfortunate that we would have started with 2-lane roads. In many jurisdictions, they would have started with 4 lanes. Then they're easily converting the roads to have that bus only lane and stuff. The problem is that widening roads is not for Barbados, definitely is not a long-term solution to the problem. There's very little opportunities. If you go into the St. Michael area, you try to go down Colmarock, there's zero opportunity without the acquisition of lands, and those lands are all heavily built up with buildings. That's going to be an exceptionally costly exercise. So option in terms of widening roads, particularly in the St. Michael area, is virtually null and void. We have to now look at other measures. The lady one person indicated about demand management. That is the type of area that we're going to be going into. So we may have to be looking at novel ideas of pricing. I don't want to say tools, but you may have to look at all other avenues to reduce the demand. Mind you, buses move far more people than cars can. They take up far less road space. And in one bus, you can move about 60 people. Well, 3 cars could only hold in the space where that bus is, right? We have to look at more sustainable methods of transport for the long-term future of the country, and that is what we are looking at, all right?
Thank you. Number 17.
Good night, everyone. I'm not going to take up too much time, but I've been begging with the minister for St. Peter to fix the road to Sailor Gully. I actually missed the briefing earlier, and somebody mentioned something about Sailor Gully during the process of the night. But that is one of the roads that we mainly use. A lot of people who have transport use that road. I wish I could just put down my car and use the bus, but unfortunately, I will have to pay 3 bus fare to where my workplace is. One from from Fort Hill, St. Peter to Spicetown, and from Spicetown to Eagle Hall, from Eagle Hall to Warrens. It's unfortunate. The road is really, really bad in Sailor Gully. When the holes are so big that this is number 4 vehicle I am on. I damaged 3 cars already. Throw them, put them aside, buy a Jeep, and it seems like you're going wrong the same thing, because you're dropping in from one pothole to the next. When they do come and they throw a little stuff, by the time the rain comes, it washes all out, and it goes down to the ram shop. I need help. Definitely need help. There's not one single light from Highway 2A to Fort Hill to Indian to Prospect Road. Only when you get into the little village of Fort Hill, then you will see houses with light. There's not a single light. Imagine a female breakdown on that road, what will happen? Alone on the road. That's my point. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Minister?
Just because you said you raised it with your MP a few times, let me just say he's away on government business, but we were trying to schedule the meeting. I know he definitely wanted to be here, and I said earlier that he messaged me several times about this road. Several times. So, you know, I'm also an MP, and I know my constituents sometimes ask me why this road took so long or that road took so long. And I just want to say that in this particular instance, for sure, your MP has raised this issue. Well, and many of your MPs, because he was only MP for 8 years. Well, he wasn't in for 25 years. I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying, but he has raised it several times with me. And the point that we made earlier, I think the person asked about is Mount Brevita, and that road becoming more use now because of the fact that that road is being repaired. And I think we committed to making the road a lot more drivable and livable in the very near future. But I understand what you're saying. Is it on Mount Brevita Road, or? So they made it more narrow than it was originally? So we gotta probably go and do a visit down. We gotta do a visit there. We'll do a visit to Mount Brevita to see the road. But I promise him to go to Mount Brevita, but I hear you. Yeah, but I just said that we are committing to making Sailor Gully a lot more usable, for sure. But I didn't understand the problem on Mount Brevita sounds more systematic. I think the PS wanted to say something about lights generally.
Ma'am, the ministry is going to be in receipt of. In fact, let me start over. The former Minister of Transport and Works, the Deputy Prime Minister, had given a commitment to the country back in February for the procurement and the installation of solar streetlights. We are going to get the first batch of 500 solar streetlights next week. And we can give the assurance that those lights will be installed within the next 2 to 3 months. Obviously, the contractor will have to be involved in our preparatory activities. But certainly, the area that you mentioned, we will give consideration to installing lights along that road. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on now to number 17. Number 18, sorry. 18.
Good night, ministers, guests. My name is Trevor Burrows, and I'm from St. Thomas. Talking about traffic congestion, a few people spoke about the roundabouts. The biggest problem with the roundabouts, yes, those markings are going to be important, but who are going to police those markings? Because sometimes you're trying to get a roundabout and a mark come and block you. You can't go anywhere, but you block the roundabout. I had an incident coming from Green Hill. There was an accident in Jackson Bottom. The traffic back up all down by the gas station. The highway free. I stopped, a guy stopped, said to me, "Are we clear down there?" And horns behind you honking. Whenever then I had to go around the roundabout and go around my village because there was an accident. I want to talk about the highway. I think somebody mentioned that you get report for driving too. I know I get report for driving too slow in Canada. Police stop me in Canada for driving too slow on the highway. I see people on the highway driving at 40 in both lanes. But if you drive at 90, the police report you. I think we got to start reporting people for driving at 40 on the highway. That is causing a lot of congestion on the highway. Not a problem. You got busy highways and people park alongside the road in a rum shop drinking rum. And traffic can't pass. We need to do something about that. And I'm saying it daily. One more point. I said I'm from St. Thomas. I get to talk about Pothole Road, Pothole City. There's a bridge when you leave the Chinese place there on top of Fortress Hill going to Richmond Post Office. I think we need to do something with that bridge as soon as possible. It is sinking every day. I think we should stop big vehicles from using it right now because it's sinking. And soon from now, you can't pass that road. I'm talking about this bridge when you pass the Chinese place on going to St. Thomas. Yeah, before you get to the Polo Club. I think you all should pay a visit to that bridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jason, any comments? Richard, anybody?
Good night. With regard to the this land castle that you were talking about, yes, it is not a bridge it's not a bridge. It's just a short retaining structure, and it can be. We are looking at it. It is under one of our consultancy programs at the moment. Yes, to be repaired. Yes.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our final offering. This is number 19.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Senior Minister, just want to thank you and the panel for having this consultation and listening to the contributions from the members of the public. My name is Roland Lowe. I'm the president of the Barbados Road Safety Association. And I want to say that I'm very pleased with the contributions that I've heard so far, particularly those relative to road safety, because that's my area. I know that persons have made a lot of different contributions, and they touched a lot of areas that I would have touched on, I wanted to touch on, so I'll just be brief and go through some of them just by mentioning the points. I just want to say to you, I had a conversation with a gentleman, Mr. Arthur, recently, and he shared some of these concerns, which are some of the things that I also have a bit of concern about. One of them is the non-existent and improper road marking, and I heard that you need to make, I would think that you should make the road markings, put them a bit earlier at the junctions and at the roundabouts. They're too close, to the junctions and to the roundabouts. You need to put them earlier along the road so persons will know what they're supposed to do in relation to these roads, these particular roads. Secondly, I want to touch on the idea of PSV behavior. The public might not know some of the things that the government has in place or is planning to do, but I was privy to a meeting where some of the things were discussed, and as a police officer, former police officer who worked with the station sergeant, Mr. Smith there, I know that the police do the best that they can, but one of the things that I believe needs to be done is that they need to increase the complement of police officers, and to do that, I've said it multiple times, you need to increase the pay of the police officers. If you want more persons, you want more feet on the ground, you need to increase the pay of the police officers. I've had a conversation with Mr. Raphael, so I wouldn't go over the things that I believe that need to be done relative to the PSV operators, but I believe, though, that you need to be consistent. If you're going to deal with them, then you need to be consistent in how you deal with them. You need to have a concise approach relative to how you go about it. The court system needs to be on board. Everybody needs to be on board in how they approach it. You can't say, well, this week we're going to go there and police it, and then next month there's nobody doing anything. The other point, too, is the MTW and lawmakers. You need to make the regulations less ambiguous. The laws and the regulations need to be less ambiguous. Clarity is a must. Persons need to understand what the law is, what the regulations are, what the rules are. And for that, you need a proper and comprehensive education and training program in terms of the rules of the road. And in connection with that same point, too, there needs to be clear and established standards as to road uses and road markings. If there are any exceptions to the rules, these should be highlighted in some sort of public information campaign. And central to this is the idea that there needs to be a proper respect for the hierarchical system in the NTW and related government agencies, where all persons below are in tune with everything that's being done so that every department or subordinate office is singing from the same hymn sheet. Again, I want to thank the members of the public for coming out and sharing your concerns and making your suggestions. And I want to say that if you have further concerns and suggestions, you can become a part of the Road Safety Association. We welcome your membership, we welcome your input. And Senior Minister, I know we will want to have a conversation relative to the stipend and contribution that the Road Safety Association used to have before. We want to see it again. And thank you again for inviting me, and good night to everyone. And travel safely when you leave.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you very much. And remember, your organization can submit your offerings to information.unit at publicworks.gov.bb, or you can WhatsApp 266-3780. We've heard your comments, your offerings, and now the final remarks will be offered by PS Jehu Wiltshire.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. During this session tonight, a number of suggestions were made by WhatsApp. There's one in particular. This gentleman pleaded to me to air his suggestion. He has indicated here. It's a very long. It's a very long submission. Obviously, I'm not going to go through it, but Fabian, he was referring to the point that was made earlier in relation to the Spikestone bus terminal. He said here that the following transport hubs, that is bus stands, should be established or augmented. He spoke in terms of the Granville Williams terminal, the Princess Alice terminal, Oyston, Six Rose, Lee, Warrens, Holton, Spikestone, Belle Plaine. He said that each of them would have shorter routes within their catchment areas, hence faster turnaround times. And each would have a few longer hauls to connect to other nearby hubs for transfer purposes. Each hub will facilitate routes managed by an authority irrespective of vehicle type, omnibus, minibus, ZR, or other. He also made a number of other suggestions. For example, he said that we should have major bus routes going to and from our Lone International Airport. Passengers and staff deserve choice in transportation. He spoke of the use of geo-tracking and scheduling software to keep fleet management and communities up to date, but that is something we're going to implement. He also spoke to the fact that there are a number of highways that should be enhanced by improved road infrastructure, for example. So he has made a number of submissions. His name is Maurice Johnson. So, Mr. Johnson, if you're still watching, I have given more or less a very brief synopsis of your submissions, but we really appreciate the time that you have taken. Oh, yeah, that is my apologies. You can come to the mic. Can I give you an opportunity to come to the mic and speak to the other submission? I didn't realize that you're actually here. Okay.
So you see, we're actually watching the comments because people online are saying we're not reading the comments, but we actually are. And this is actually a good example. You will be very brief, however, because I believe the PS was very extensive in sharing your ideas.
Yes, it was. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ministers, PS. I will just quickly touch on the road infrastructure. Mighty Grinder Highway all the way to the airport, and also highway to way from Warrens to Mile and a Quarter. So my idea was to put a roundabout at Brighton and at Holborn, and to make the highway continuously to the airport 4 lanes, effectively. It would take into consideration some of the other things that we talked about earlier from other submissions. Ballantine, Kingsland in particular, is a very galling scenario that is overdue for a roundabout. And widening of the road, you have 4 lanes until you get to Top Rock, and then you immediately get to 2 lanes, entering a very busy area with Coleman, a major supermarket, gas stations, a secondary school, then on to Newton, and up to the airport. The Coverley area in particular, I was very disappointed to see that Lowlands, which has been causing no end of crashes and danger hasn't been earmarked for a roundabout, even though we are doing a very good job of expanding Coverley. I think the slip lane scenario from the Bell should be used along Coverley instead of having a roundabout along that stretch. And then the road will continue up to the airport. And the congestion at the airport roundabout, both of them, I think could be solved by moving the entrance roundabout east, further east, away from Pugs, if that makes anyone, now that the gas station is gone, and allow traffic to enter the airport closer to the Concorde experience, amalgamating that with the rest of the departure chaos, and literally lengthening the entire causeway in front of the airport to allow for easier traffic flows. And I have a separate special scenario for the MTWW with regard to the airport in particular, but definitely persons heading towards St. Philip have a real challenge if you are trying to get past the airport busy periods. So those are some of the major things I think that we can do. The rest, a lot that speaks to Fabian's area transport. I am a firm believer in enhanced public transport. I would put down my vehicle as well if it was a lot more reliable. I'm not here to knock it. Everyone spoke about the problems we have. I think we can integrate what we have long before we get to the flyover scenario. So I await your considerations. And if you need more submissions, I'll be happy to speak to you separately.
Thank you very much. More submissions are always welcomed. And I want to remind those who are present and, of course, those who are here who are also online, information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb or WhatsApp number 266-3780. Minister, final comments.
Thank you all for coming and for staying the duration of the meeting. I think we got some very, very good ideas. It's also pleasant to see persons I have not seen in a long time. It's always good to see you. And it's always good to be here. I believe meetings in the North are normally very fruitful. There was a gentleman who said that normally there's not so many people in the audience, but I've found when I come to the North, whether it was in maritime or in the social, we got really good comments. And for those persons who know me, there's a very short window between the time that we say we're going to do something, or I say I'm going to do something, and when it is done. So when I say we're going to come back to the public and tell the public what our decisions are, I mean it. So I think within a month of our consultation, we will be back to say the ones we're implementing. And then you're going to see, even before we come back, in my view, we should be implementing some of these ideas all now. So MTW knows how I feel, but we will be implementing a lot of these ideas before we come back to the public. I feel, though, because I have so many people here from the PSV sector, that it would be remiss of me not to say that I think the public continues to speak and that we have to listen to what the public is saying. I believe that the PSV sector offers a most important service to the public of Barbados. I believe without the PSV sector, we would probably flounder more than we are now. I believe it is extremely important. But I also know, if we're being honest, that there are just too many complaints, way too many complaints in that particular sector for us not to be able to address it. If the director of the the Transport Authority were here, she would tell you of the number of things that they've already implemented to try to curb behavior. But I think the problem is a systemic problem. And we need a modern system for managing transport, period, whether it is the public sector vehicles, whether it is public transport, whether it is the taxis, everything brought into order, because order must be the order of the day. And it is too important. I think we have to protect the children who take these vehicles. We have to protect the older persons who take these vehicles. We have to protect everyone who takes the vehicles. And I believe the point that was raised earlier about us being able to partner is going to be very important. So we're going to have a series of meetings, a series of commitments that we must make to the public as a unit, as a team. And then we must stick to the commitments that we make. Because it is unacceptable for this conversation to be going on as long as it has been going on. I think you made the point that different governments seem to be unable to bring this to heed, and we have to be able to bring it to heed. So I think we're going to be able to do that. I think I'm looking forward to the new Mass Transit Authority when it comes and how that's going to work. I'm looking forward to implementing a lot of the solutions that were brought forward by this audience and other audiences. I am thankful that at this very difficult time in the country's progress and history, I happen to be the minister who lives in the north. And therefore, I understand a lot of the challenges. But I'm hopeful that the public sees that what we're doing is actually going to shape government policy. And I think we would be very disappointing if we are not able to show you exactly where your interventions have been able to make real change. And I think that is my commitment to you and to the public. So I want to thank you for coming tonight. I want to thank you for coming to the 4 sessions. We close next week, Wednesday, with Leicester Vaughan, I think at 6. I was told today that that was probably the worst choice because Leicester Vaughan area is probably where people are most upset at the moment. So hopefully by next Wednesday, people will see a little bit more progress, but we'll be at Leicester Vaughan next week, Wednesday at 6. 6:30? Is it 6:30? The permanent secretary has told me that there's a Kathy Ann online who had made some very good suggestions. She's here too? We will take all those suggestions into consideration, but please get home safely. Go with the grace of the good Lord. And if you can come back out again on Wednesday, I look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Those are the comments from Minister Humphrey. Thank you. And also thank the Minister of State in the Ministry, Dr. Rama Springer, Permanent Secretary Jehu Wiltshire, our technical or Deputy Chief Technical Officer Jason Boyne, as well as Richard Austin and Chico McCarthy Bruce, Chief Licensing Officer. Of course, we recognize also the members of the Transport Board, and we're glad to see members of the Barbados Police Service present with us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Do travel home safely.